ago, 2 years ago, then Goodwin House and now Goodwin Living started a program with our villages called StrongerMemory. And it's been a huge success. And we thank Goodwin Living for all their support. And we look forward to what you're going to talk about today. So take it over.
Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I see a lot of familiar names in the chat of attendees, so that's exciting. We've really been so grateful to the villages for taking up our StrongerMemory program and being such an integral part of it. So we are going to talk today. For those of you who don't know what StrongerMemory is, we'll do a brief overview and then provide some updates on some really exciting things that have been happening, along with some time to talk with Ruth, who's one of our longtime participants and former educator, and with Teresa, who is our StrongerMemory outreach coordinator. I'm going to share my screen. Sometimes it does not want to. Here we go. Sometimes when I share my second screen, the menu for Zoom pops up right where I need to click the presentation mode. Okay, here we go. So my name's Jessica Frederickson. I've been working with older adults for quite a while. I'm really passionate about working, especially with individuals on brain health and dementia education. Teresa is a RN and quality excellence professional. She's worked as a registered nurse in senior living, and she has been with us as the StrongerMemory outreach coordinator since I believe maybe March. It seems like longer than that, but she's been with us for quite some time. And then Ruth Oxman is a longtime participant in our StrongerMemory weekly check-in groups and a former educator. So she's here to share her experience and perspective as well. StrongerMemory is supported by the Goodwin Living Foundation, and this is one way that we take our mission to support, honor, and uplift the lives of older adults and those who care for them outside of the walls of our services, and really provide this free, accessible program to others. This is our friend Wendy Liebrick, StrongerMemory's pioneer. And back in 2011, Wendy was repeating her thoughts, forgetting conversations, and she even got lost driving in the neighborhood she'd grown up her whole life in. So she and her husband were getting frustrated, a little scared, because this was starting to impact her daily activities. And Wendy is the type of person who's not going to take that news lying down. She wanted a solution. She wanted to find something to help her and help her maintain or improve her brain health as she kept growing older. So Wendy took a test in 2011 that showed she did have some brain function challenges. She had something called mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, which is often a precursor to dementia, but it's a signal that there are some things in the brain that aren't processing quite as quickly as they should be. So I like to tell people, there's concerning memory loss, like getting lost in neighborhoods that you are familiar with. And then there's those things that are frustrating, like I walked into the kitchen and forgot what I came in here for, but it comes back to me later. Or I left my phone in the apartment when I walked out the door and I've got to go back for it. Forget this person's name, but I know where I know them from. Those kinds of things that are frustrating aren't a sign of dementia, but still can be improved if we focus on our brain health. So Wendy in 2011 went to her son, Rob, who is Goodwin Living's CEO, And she asked him, he'd been working in the field for a while with seniors. So she asked him, what can I do to improve my brain health? What can I do to, not continue declining, but to be able to talk with my grandkids and really have a healthy brain for years to come. So Rob was at a leading age conference in 2012, and he was introduced to a program that started in Japan with individuals with very advanced dementia. So just really simple writing, simple math, and reading out loud. So he thought, well, maybe we can move this upstream a little bit, and my mom, Wendy, could do that. So Wendy started reading out loud, handwriting, doing simple math problems quickly, and she saw improvement within a month. And her husband, Howard, will say the same thing, that there was improvement in Wendy's ability to remember things, to recall. She was repeating herself less. And Wendy still does the Stronger Memory program today. She is a great advocate and an excellent member of our Stronger Memory groups. So she's still able to do it all, and often speaks on Stronger Memory. So she's really our pioneer. In 2019, Rob was at Goodwin Living and had the opportunity to take what he'd done with his mom, what he had done at a previous place of employment for his residents there in senior living, and create the Stronger Memory program, which is taking all of these experiences into something that's really easily accessible. So there's a workbook with easy writing prompts and easy math problems to allow anybody in their homes, in other communities, to be able to access these easy brain exercises. We started running those sessions at Goodwin House in 2020. And we did some research with George Mason University. They saw really positive initial impact from their qualitative interviews that they did. And in 2021, we launched our Village to Village network. It has been almost 2 years now, and that has been really exciting. We've got over 50 villages have done a Stronger Memory group. A lot of them have done one 12-week group and then continued to do more. So that's really exciting. We are still going strong and excited to partner with more villages. So if you are interested and you haven't tried Stronger Memory out, we're happy to connect with you after this conference and continue that conversation. I also want to thank the village participants because they have been a great asset to our second phase of research with George Mason University. So we are getting a report later today, and then hopefully we'll be scheduling a webinar with especially all of those who participated in the pre and post testing of Stronger Memory. But thanks to a lot of the village to village groups opening up to be part of the study, we have, I think, about 110 participants who've gone through that pre and post testing. So we're really excited about that and grateful to all of you. 2022, earlier this year, we launched Stronger Memory in senior centers throughout the state of Maryland. Have really successful feedback on that. And we just received a grant in Virginia through the Civil Monetary Penalty Fund, which is a really long way to say for homes, to roll out Stronger Memory in 100 nursing homes over the next 3 years. So we are continuing to grow, and I'm really excited to be back here this year with you all to share these updates, because Village Network was really our first big partnership, and you guys have all given us so much great feedback to continue developing and improving the program and our tools. So what is Stronger Memory? It is designed to help individuals who maybe you are facing a diagnosis of MCI or early diagnosis of dementia, but it can also help people who just want to maintain or improve their focus and general brain health. I started doing the exercises in January of this year after I got COVID, because I had a really mild case of Omicron, but I could not shake the brain fog. And so doing the stronger memory exercises, especially the math, and I hate math, but doing the math problems really helps me focus, and I could tell there was a difference. So we're working our prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain right behind your forehead. And this helps us to stabilize and improve cognitive functions. There's research on why that part of the brain does that, and we do have a blog post you can look at for some of those links. We can send some information out as well. So this illustrates pretty well how the how the brain works. So if you can see the light bulb, when we're doing normal activity that's not very strenuous, like looking out the window but not really thinking about too much, or watching TV but not something super stimulating, only a few parts of our brain are lighting up with activity. Even really difficult math problems, it certainly feels like we're working hard, but we're only working a small part of our brain. And sometimes this is good. We don't need to be working our whole brain all the time. But to help our memory and our recall, we want to be working the whole brain together. So when we do these exercises of reading aloud, simple math, and writing by hand, the prefrontal cortex and other areas of our brain light up like a light bulb, and it's activating all of those neural pathways so that we can recall that information, and it's exercising those recall pathways in our brain. We think about our brain kind of like we think about a muscle. If we build muscle and keep using it, it stays strong. If we stop using that muscle, though, then it might weaken a little bit over time. So we want to use these neural pathways, use this recall, use that prefrontal cortex so that we are lighting up our brain, keeping it strong to improve our memory and focus. We had, I'm going to invite Teresa to chat for a little bit about our Maryland group. These are some great photos from the Maryland Senior Centers and participants who've done Stronger Memory. We did a survey with them on their satisfaction ratings and experience with the program. And so I'm going to share that and let Teresa share and go through that, and then we'll open it up to some other feedback and ask Ruth some questions about her experience and her thoughts on Stronger Memory, and then open it up to questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can pull up our document. This one is hot off the press. We just finalized this fact sheet and this data analysis yesterday or Monday. So really excited to be able to share it with all of you.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Mandela, and as Jessica said, I am both a nurse and I am the outreach coordinator for Stronger Memory. So if I haven't met some of you yet, I'm looking forward to it. And it is my job and my privilege to help facilitate bringing Stronger Memory to your village. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you would like some assistance. We can share things like tips and best practices, ensure that you know where to go to get the free program online. And then you're able to download it or order printed copies of the workbook. So again, I'm going to tell you today about Stronger Memory in Maryland at the senior centers. And this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I'm a 10th generation Marylander. So I was thrilled to hear that Maryland raised their hand and said, wow, this program is kind of cool. And back in April of this year, our Secretary of Aging, Rona Kramer, said, you know what, we can find a small amount of money if some of our senior centers would like to roll this program out and give it a try as a pilot. And 7 counties immediately raised their hand and said, yes, we would like to do it. And so for those of you that are familiar with Maryland, I'll let you know we had a mix of counties. We had Baltimore County, which is pretty heavily populated. Then my county, Calvert, one of the smallest, Cecil up on the Delaware line. We also had Charles County and St. Mary's County in Southern Maryland. And way over by Ocean City, we had Wacomico and Worcester counties. And with those 7 counties, a total of 415 participants at senior centers signed up and joined the sessions for Stronger Memory. So we were delighted that there was a great deal of interest. And since that time, all of those 7 counties went through the 12 weeks of Stronger Memory sessions. And since then, a few other counties heard about it in Maryland and said, wait a minute, we want to do this too. And since September, we know that Talbot County on the Eastern Shore and also Prince George's County on the Washington, D.C. line have also started doing Stronger Memory. So I'll tell you a little bit about what happened. I think many of you already know, as Jessica has pointed out, that Stronger Memory is designed not as a cure, but as a brain exercise habit that you form to help stave off dementia or cognitive impairment. And the whole idea is to work that prefrontal cortex so that you're improving your focus or your memories. And Jessica, I know someone just said they can't see the whole slide, and we apologize. It's an infographic on a PDF, and we haven't had time yet to put it into a slide, but this will give you an idea. We'll roll it a little bit ahead there. But the centers did the program, which, as you know, is reading aloud for approximately 10 minutes a day, doing simple math quickly for about 10 minutes a day, and then also writing by hand in cursive writing to some writing prompts. So it was very interesting that the centers rolled it out and they had their own discretion on how they would like to implement the program. Here with the Stronger Memory team, we have developed a curriculum guide, which is sort of like lesson plans for weeks 1 through 12 to help give you some structure if you're interested in that. However, we know that the senior centers in Maryland, just like the villages across the United States, you know your people better than we would ever know your people. So even though we've designed this curriculum package, it's truly a resource, but you can do things your own way. And the senior centers in Maryland did just that. Some of them decided that they would have just the weekly check-in meetings with their participants in the senior centers just once a week and kind of do the how's it going? Did you have any issues this week? Were you pretty successful doing your Stronger Memory activities? Which ones did you like better than others? Which ones are giving you a hard time? Jessica and I can tell you, for us, it's the math. But they found that certain centers decided they would do the weekly check-in only, and other centers were doing more frequent check-ins with their folks, whether they were doing that virtually or even in person and setting up little activity stations within the senior centers. It didn't really matter how they did it because they were all successful in having folks say that they really enjoyed the program. As you can see here in these charts, 89% of the 415 people said, hey, we were satisfied with the program. 86% definitely felt an increase in social connection. And that's a big one for us because you have to remember, these are folks who are already attending the senior centers. So they already kind of had a social connection, but it increased it even more to join StrongerMemory. And then 64% of them acknowledged that they had a benefit in brain health. That's a whopper number for us because, again, we're talking about reading aloud, doing simple math quickly, and writing by hand. We're not talking rocket science. We're not talking learning calculus. We're not talking jumping through hoops and doing jump rope backwards. These are things that all of us know how to do and learned how to do when we were kids, pretty much. And that's what we think is happening, is it's lighting up those parts of our brain that we used as kids when we were learning to write by hand, when we were learning to do simple math, and when we were learning to read. And so those connections are again reinforced. And so let me just read you a few of the things that some of the participants took the time to write about in the surveys that were conducted. And every senior center did conduct a survey with their participants. So the first one I really like is, I liked being around people. That has helped me with my depression, and that warms our hearts. Another person said, I have started drawing again. How fabulous. And then several people said things like, we need more of these kinds of programs. And we got some other ones too. One person said, I felt energized by the math, and that surprised me. I haven't felt that energized about anything in quite a while. Other people were saying things like, normally, speaking out loud makes me nervous, but I'm actually doing the reading aloud right now, and I've given myself a pat on the back. Someone else said, my voice was a bit squeaky at first when I started reading out loud, but I persevered and it's really helped me. One of my personal favorites was a gentleman in Southern Maryland who was so excited about this program. Before it even started, he got the workbook from the senior center, and he and his wife went on a picnic. And he read aloud to her, and she agreed to read aloud to him. And then he later reported that this became somewhat of a romantic activity for he and his wife to continue with. So we always like hearing those great stories. You can also see that facilitators. So, and again, a huge shout out to those of you that are on this call right now that are village to village facilitators for StrongerMemory. But hearing people say things like, it was rewarding to call the StrongerMemory participants and caregivers at home and hear their stories. In many cases, the caregiver became the facilitator, and all of them had commented that they are particularly enjoying reading out loud. One other said she felt so good to know that they could be a positive resource for people who are concerned about memory loss and dementia by offering a free virtual program to caregivers who said they needed and wanted something that they could do together. So now this is an engaging part of their day where they are spending time together. And we've heard a lot of stories like that. Some people really love to get up first thing in the morning, have StrongerMemory on their calendar, grab a cup of coffee and get started and knock it out for the day. And then we're hearing others that say, I just like math so much that it's the last thing I do before I go to bed at night, but at least I can cross it off. And then we have a mother and the daughter is the caregiver, and the daughter has said that they actually do their reading aloud at cocktail time. So there are all kinds of ways that you can incorporate StrongerMemory into your day. But we wanted to bring you this kind of summary, and we wanted to say again, thank you to the Maryland Department of Aging for recognizing that this could be something that they think would be helpful. And it looks like the participants that have gone through have said yes. And we do know that of the 7 counties, at least 4 have tried to work it into their budget for next year to be able to provide StrongerMemory. Interestingly enough, because I have seen a couple questions pop up about the cost, this is a no-cost program All of the materials for Stronger Memory are provided on our website so that they can be accessible to all. So the only cost someone may incur is that they would want to print the workbook so that they can do the daily math and they can do the writing by hand. And we also offer that as a printed copy with kind of a pass-through cost. It's just our cost for the printing, and then the shipping can be sent out. But a lot of places like the senior center decided that they would print these on their own. So that really was the only money that they decided that they would use toward the program. And I will say a few of them did some pretty cool things, like giving $10 Walmart cards and $10 Amazon cards to keep that motivation going and keep people coming. And they would have a drawing once every few weeks for the card if people were coming to the sessions and doing Stronger Memory. But that's sort of it in a nutshell. So I will hand it back to Jess.
Yeah, and just to add to that, talking about the cost of Stronger Memory, because we are really generously funded through Goodwin Living Foundation, we are able to provide that support for people who want to roll their own Stronger Memory group out. If there's no cost to meeting with us, with Teresa and myself, and doing some training. I know we always get lots of questions, and I see some of those, but I want to make sure we talk to Ruth first. So Ruth, could you just share a little bit about yourself and how you first heard about Stronger Memory?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I have to say that I have known Wendy Liebrick since I met her in high school. So we are long time friends out here in Portland, Oregon. I was living in California for about 20 years, my husband and I working there and teaching and just having a wonderful career time. And we decided to move back to Portland to be near family members, and longtime friends. I experienced a serious back surgery that set me back tremendously, physically, and apparently to my family, also mentally. They were very concerned about my memory, and because we have memory loss in the family, that added to their concerns. So obviously I had talked with Wendy along the way because we were both, like I said, longtime friends. And she said, well, I have a group that you could join, and we meet once a week on Zoom, and the timing couldn't have been better. Not only was I recovering from back surgery, but we went into COVID, and all of a sudden we were isolated. And I think isolation can do more damage than anything else I can think of, whether you are a single person living by yourself with no roommates or no contact with other people, whether you've been widowed, whether you're divorced, just the different issues that happen in life can really isolate people. And there was nothing like Zoom in our lives earlier on that really saved the day. So here I am in Portland, Oregon, with a number of our friends, like Wendy and other close friends. And we're getting together with people in Virginia and Maryland and just having these nice sessions where we were meeting each other. It's been going on for 2 years. We do meet once a week on Thursday, and we're still meeting, and we're still enjoying each other and still seeing changes. I think it's pretty apparent over time, and I'm sure Jessica and Teresa can attest to that they're seeing changes in us also. So it's really helped all of us in that regard. So Stronger Memory has become important to me. I can honestly say I am not one of those who regularly sits down once a day and does specific activities. I'm just too random. I can't tell you why, but that's me. But I think one thing I want to impart to everyone is you don't have to be so regimented if that's not your personality.
Yeah.
For those that are, who do like to work on a regular basis, or whether it's math at night, as you mentioned, Teresa, or whether it's early in the morning, like I know Wendy does, as long as you do it, that's the main thing. And I find that periodically I test myself and I just go through random sheets of the math book and I put my timer on and I just check to see, can I still answer these questions? And that seems to work for me. So I just want people to know that don't give up just because you do it differently. I think that's the key lesson that I can share with people. I also am in multiple book groups, and which is always a challenge because how many books can one read in a week? But that's another issue. The point is, I was starting to find that I was scanning words. I had no idea what I just read. Couldn't tell you anything about the book. I didn't even know if I could remember the title. It was just getting to be a bit ridiculous. So I started with other people reading aloud that were in the group. And so we're reading the same book. And now we're sharing. And in sharing the reading, we're also talking about what we just read. And that brings in a recall. So that's one more way to enhance your knowledge, is to talk about, oh yeah, well, what'd you think about that? You know, and how he did that, and da, da, da. And all of a sudden, it all comes through and plays through. And now, even if I can't get together with that person on a regular basis, more than once or twice a week, at least I'm reading for meaning, because I'm prepared, then I have to share that. And then some of us out here in Oregon, we're reading Atomic Habits by James Clear together. And we were reading a chapter at a time and talking about it. And so we were developing our own habits based on that as well. If anyone is, not sure whether they want to do something like this, figure it out as best you can to do what you can do. At least start out so you can see what it is that you're doing. Because if you don't start out doing the prescribed program, you don't know how it's going to affect you and what you're going to remember. So I think it's important to figure out a method, as both Teresa and Jessica have been pointing out, of getting people started in it. And I think more people should be involved in it. I think I'm 77, and I saw my mother's memory decrease. She was isolated and alone. When she got lost going to a friend's house, it was time to move her, and I moved her to California, and she was in a home where she had contacts with other people. And that also made a difference at that time. I didn't know, obviously, about Stronger Memory back in 2006 and so on, but it helped her just making connections. And one of the things that I still remember to this day, there was a woman there who didn't talk at all. She hardly said anything. She'd walk into the room and they would be playing some music. And suddenly she was singing all the words to a Patsy Cline song. Yeah. All of them. She knew the whole song. So we know that there's different parts of the brain that are enhanced by music. There's so much more that we need to learn about it. And I think Stronger Memory is a good place to get started. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, I had a whole list of questions to prompt you, and you didn't need it because you just speak so eloquently about it all. Thank you for sharing that. I want to just ask you, what's your favorite part of the weekly groups? Because they have been going on for 2 years now. And I know when people hear about Stronger Memory and hear that you're going to do something for 12 weeks, that sounds like a really long time. So what's your favorite thing about, what's your favorite thing about the weekly groups, and why do you keep coming back?
Well, first I have to tell you, I have done a considerable amount of moving because my husband's job would take us to different cities. I've even lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin twice. I was born there, and then I had a son there later on when we moved back. So I happen to just be one of those people who loves meeting new people and just finding out where I am and hearing people's stories. So for me, that's one thing that works. So what works on the Zoom meetings, and as I said, first of all, it got us through COVID. That was a horrible time to be isolated. And as seniors, you even feel it more. And so, because I didn't have a job to go to, I'm retired. Okay, now what do I do? And so getting together once a week was great. The other thing is hearing other people's stories. So there's one gentleman who has rebuilt a train set, which just fascinated me, a miniature train set, and he shows it in his background on his screen whenever we're talking, and just hearing about that, because I remember my brother and I having a train set when we were kids. And so I've always loved miniature train sets. And believe it or not, one of my sons has that train set, because it so happens when my husband and I got married, we merged our Lionel train sets. So now he has the train set. So I love hearing about what Brad is doing with the train set. He also enjoys singing and choral groups with he and his wife. So I enjoy hearing about that. There was another woman on there named Mary who got her into watercolor painting through other Zoom courses. Well, that just fascinated me because I used to take art classes. And so she kind of motivated me to get back to doing art. So that has been good. So just connecting and hearing people's stories just makes a difference. And I think those of you, Teresa and Jessica and Perry, who have been facilitators, know from just hearing us talk to each other that we all learn so much from each other. And just making the connections is extremely important when you're isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ruth.
You're welcome.
I see we've got some questions in the chat, and I know we've got that Q&A function as well. So I can run through some of those. Let's see, Teresa, do you want, I see a few people who have asked, what do they do if they want to participate in Stronger Memory? They want to start Stronger Memory. The main person they'll be talking to is Miss Teresa. So what does that look like? And yeah, can you talk them through that?
Sure, great. And I can't wait to speak with you and to email with you. So the easiest way to contact me is via email. I put my name is Teresa Mandela, and I'm TMANDELA at goodwinliving.org. If you can't remember that, and where you're so busy and you just kind of lose that, you go to StrongerMemory.org. And what's kind of neat is, even if you forget that, if you just Google Stronger Memory, it should take you directly to our StrongerMemory.org website. And there is a button there where you can contact us via email at the StrongerMemory.org website. And I will be very happy to speak with you. And what does that look like? First, we like to know what setting you're calling about or emailing about. So do you work in assisted living? Are you in one of the villages? If you're in one of the villages, do you already have a facilitator, or are you a participant perhaps who's very interested and maybe knows 4, 5, 6 other people who would like to do this together? And as a small group, you could start it even individually, but then get together, as Ruth has described beautifully, via Zoom once a week for check-ins. So we want to find out what your background is. We will send you the facilitator resource packet that I mentioned that has a lot of great things in it: frequently asked questions, the Stronger Memory story, some communication tips when asking others to join your group, and then the curriculum or the lesson plans for weeks 1 through 12. Again, you don't have to stick with the tight structure, but they're there to give you some ideas and talking points. We will share some other secrets that we've learned along the way, little things like if you're doing a 12-week course on anything, and it could be, I don't know, learning how to do trapeze work. I'm going to tell you that at weeks 4 and 5, no matter what you're doing, you're going to start seeing a possible attrition rate, and you want to be able to keep that motivation up and that encouragement. So we can share some tips with you on focusing on, okay, we know there's going to be a decline around weeks 4 and 5. So what can we do to jazz it up a little and get people excited and stay the course? I just saw someone ask they actually had some wonderful feedback about setting expectations. And that's a really good point as well. Again, this is not a cure for dementia. Many people that are wanting to do this program have no signs whatever of cognitive impairment, or they may have some significant signs. So it's all about brain health. And yes, I'm glad that very nice person, I think it's Darcy, brought that up.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy, for putting that in the chat. That's really great.
It's
Great
really
feedback.
great, yes, because you may not notice this incredibly dramatic change
Right.
in your memory and your ability to focus. However, we are seeing quite a few people saying yes. It's also interesting when you ask someone during the 12 weeks if they've noticed an improvement. And what we've often seen is that we ask that question at the end, people are like, well, maybe I kind of, and the person that is living with them will say, don't let them stop, it's really working. And I think what happens there is a very normal thing that you just adjust to the way you are at the moment. But when we asked people often between the 4 and 6 week mark, they are noticing an improvement. But when we ask them at the end, they've already sustained that slight improvement. The other thing we want to point out is this doesn't necessarily have to show improvement if you're not worsening over a 12-week or longer period. That's a big win, especially for folks that may have been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, because that can sometimes be a precursor to dementia. And it would not be uncommon to start to see even further decline. So great that someone brought that up. And again, I would be delighted to speak with anyone or email back and forth with you. And we would set up then about a 45-minute Zoom call generally with Jessica and myself, just to discuss and learn a little bit more about you and give you some thoughts on what we've seen work.
Thanks, Teresa.
Sure.
Yeah, Ruth.
Yeah, I would like to just add something. As an educator, I used to work with very young children, so I was used to reading aloud to young children. And what was very interesting to me in reading aloud with some of my friends is how they didn't notice periods or commas, how they just would skip words and not read for meaning or add words. Mm-hmm. And so just because of my old habit, speaking of habits, of reading for meaning and to tell the story, I started to notice, and now I'm seeing with some of my friends who were having those challenges that they are reading more meaningfully and noticing the periods now and not just reading words. So I think that makes a difference in your ability to understand, because then it's not just words on a page, but it's a meaning on a page and a reason to be reading it. So I did notice that, and things that can continue to improve. I'm really seeing it with some of my friends who, like I said, added a word. That word wasn't in there, it's kind of that kind of an experience. I just want to share that. It's not so much that what you knew before, it's now what are you knowing? What are you learning? What are you seeing? What are you doing that can enhance your knowledge?
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, that was great. Great feedback.
Good question from Denise Snyder, who asks, what percentage of your programs are on Zoom versus in person? Do you recommend one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't think of a percentage off the top of my head. I know a lot of our village networks started them on Zoom because, we started this in early 2021. It was still, COVID was still very much a thing, and it still is. So definitely we've had a lot of groups on Zoom. I think there's benefits to each. It depends on your group. I think what we have found really doesn't work is a hybrid situation. So either all of the participants need to be on Zoom or all of the participants need to be in person. It gets just a little bit too busy and too complicated if you have some participants on Zoom and some in person. That can work for the intro session, but it doesn't usually work for connection within the group. I know our in-person groups, the feedback is that, it's so nice to have that in-person connection. But honestly, a lot of people have preferred the Zoom groups because then, we have some people like in Ruth's group, we've got people in Oregon, people from Virginia, Maryland. We even have someone who occasionally pops in from Barbados. So we're able to kind of meet with a variety of people that we wouldn't otherwise get together in the same room. But a lot of people have also said, we've done Stronger Memory groups with our Goodwin Living at Home program. And those participants have said that they prefer the Zoom meeting because it's not another place they have to drive to. So for people who are going to a lot of doctor's appointments or errands, they kind of appreciate that they can do a Zoom class. I think in this post-pandemic world, we can see that some of our participants like, I went to yoga at 10 and then I can come to Stronger Memory at 11. I couldn't do that otherwise. So I think the Zoom has been really successful. We have done some Stronger Memory groups certainly at our senior living communities, but also at Lewinsville retirement residences, HUD housing for seniors. If people are in a congregate living setting, then meeting in person tends to work better for them because they don't have to drive anywhere. They just have to walk down the hall. But yeah, Zoom has been really, really popular. I see Marty said that research shows people are more disinhibited on Zoom. That's really interesting. That makes a lot of sense. I think we built lots of connections on our Zoom groups.
Yeah. Let's see. Wayne asks, how do you determine who is a good candidate for Stronger Memory? How do you handle people with very different levels of cognitive loss?
Yeah, that's a great question. The exercises are meant to be a guide. Like Ruth said, you can kind of customize it to what works best for you. So we have rolled Stronger Memory out with some individuals who have more advanced dementia or more advanced cognitive decline. And then it's maybe something simple. It's getting that social interaction one-on-one with a care partner or a family member. And instead of writing a whole paragraph or a full sentence, even, it might be talking about something. Tell me about, your favorite color, or tell me about your son. What did you do for a living? And just writing down one word, just practicing that handwriting. It's not about learning new things is great for our brains. But that is not what Stronger Memory is doing. Stronger Memory is kind of practicing these things, getting back to the basics for that focus and that recall. So it doesn't have to be, progressive. You don't have to be learning new things, doing harder and harder math. So getting the easy math problems, doing some numeracy boards and counting even, can be really, really beneficial.
Okay, lots of
I see lots of
Marty,
questions.
you really got the thing going here with this disinhibited
Yeah.
on Zoom. I did find a something on Wikipedia related to that I dropped in there. Let's see.
You want me to jump in with some of the questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Barbara. I didn't know if you were available. I was just jumping in as usual.
Oh, no, I was sitting here. I'm doing sidebar stuff, so I figured Jessica had it under control. Good question, and it's so funny because you're not allowed to laugh at this. It's not a laugh, but
Promise. I
have
won't.
you used Stronger Memory program in retirement homes? Which I was laughing, giggling at because Goodwin House is a CCRC. So
Yeah.
you can answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. We have done Stronger Memory in retirement homes, and really successfully too. So we've done it in different levels, so residential or independent living, in subsidized senior housing settings where people are living together in a community, but not because of any medical or cognitive reason. And we've also done it in our assisted living and skilled nursing areas. So it definitely can be effective, but I think depending on the level of care that you are receiving in those settings, you might want to adjust the way that those programs are rolled out. So in residential living, retirement homes, we still do that group model. But if we're doing something more like assisted living or with people who have a further dementia diagnosis, then we might partner with them one-on-one with volunteers or care partners.
Okay, so there's two questions that kind of are together, separate people, but it goes into the data that you're collecting. And do you have any objective quantitative data that you can share with? But also the second person that asked the question, in terms of the villages, are you using some of that data towards this also?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are great questions. We have not required that anybody gives us data. We do have optional general satisfaction surveys that go out, and we did have the option for participants in the villages to be part of the official study with George Mason University. Ultimately, we want this to be really easy, so we haven't required any data. The preliminary results that were presented to us from GMU did show that there is a statistically significant improvement in the mini MoCA score. So in the cognitive score, cognitive screening tool score from before people started the program and 12 weeks after. So
can you just clarify what the mini MoCA is? It's the mini.
Yeah, the mini MoCA is a cognitive screening tool. So it doesn't diagnose people with dementia, but it has a variety of questions. It's been validated several times, used often in medical medical research and medical testing, and it can show where there is a gap in memory or cognition. And so it's been really interesting to see that number improve, because typically it doesn't change over a 12-week period of time. So that's been really, really exciting to see. We have a meeting, our internal team has a meeting later this afternoon, actually, with our research team. They have finished the data analysis. So I'm excited to hear their results. And they are working on publishing a manuscript in a peer-reviewed journal. And just with the editing process of that, my guess is we will maybe not see a published peer-reviewed article until early spring. But I'm very hopeful that before the end of the year, we can have a a webinar that will be open to everybody who wants to join, especially those of you that participated in the research, where they can verbally, share the results of that study.
Oh, good. Share that. That would be great. We'd be happy to
Absolutely,
host
yes.
that. I'm assuming that you're continuing your facilitator calls, correct?
We are, yes. We have, I saw a few questions on that. Over the summer, we had, I think, a few things come up where our facilitator calls got a little bit off our usual schedule, but we are going to be continuing those facilitator calls. We had done twice a month, but I think we're going to go back to once a month, and then maybe invite in, now that we're continuing with our Maryland groups, invite in those facilitators as well. Some of them might be rolling it out in really different ways, but I think it would be beneficial to get as many people as possible together.
Emily Jones asked, and I have to go and look in the document library. She found the PowerPoint presentation. Do I have any other documents that you sent me? I don't remember offhand.
I can look. I'm happy to send you. We do have everything on the website, but I'm happy to, I'm happy to send you everything as well. We do have
That's great. That'd be great.
curriculum guides and flyers, social media guides for advertising. Absolutely.
Okay, I can't guarantee, Emily, that I'm going to have it on this week, just to let you know. Last Q&A question on this side. I know we're wrapping up. Let's say somebody doesn't have cognitive decline. Can this program help just the average person? Just, I'm thinking, stimulating your brain and,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where we see a lot of people not notice an improvement, but they don't notice a decline. I think the biggest benefit to people who don't have cognitive decline, yes, it's stimulating your brain. This is all good for brain maintenance. If you've read Keep Sharp by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, he talks about this a lot. There's things we can do to stimulate our brain and help us stay cognitively fit as we get older. And I think that social component, there's a lot of research out about kind of the 6 pillars of brain health, which are mentally stimulating activities, socialization, nutrition, stress reduction, sleep, and physical exercise, even just walking 15 minutes a day. So it's really important for just maintenance and helping us age well with a healthy brain to reduce that risk of dementia. And I've seen it help my focus and my recall. So it might have some of those benefits even if you don't have a diagnosis or any memory challenges, but the results that you'll see and feel won't be as dramatic as some of our individuals who do.
terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're at the end, but this has been great. And I'm so pleased that our villages were able to participate in such a great and important, project and, continue on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're excited too. And so, if anyone is interested, you can reach out to us, even if you've previously rolled it out, but you want to get restarted or have a new volunteer, feel free to email us and we'll set up some trainings and get everybody connected.
And would you mind, I don't know if you did it, but would you put, you put StrongerMemory, but your email, your contact information, guys? That'd be great. That'd be great. All right. Enjoy. And Ruth, thank you so much for jumping on the call.
Yes.
Really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we are going to take a break, a 15-minute break. But before we take the break, or during the break, we're going to have another little stretching exercise class. So I'd like to introduce a sponsor who has been a sponsor for the last couple of years, Vitality Society. And again, another program benefit that our villages have done the last 2 years. And I'm going to turn it over to Meredith Oppenheim, who's going to introduce her, class and Vitality. So take it away, Meredith.
Thank you, Barbara, and thanks, Travis and Steve, for all your help. It is an absolute privilege that we have had an opportunity to serve many members of the villages. Today, excuse me, excited to introduce Hiei, who will be joining us from Paris. Hiei teaches our Sunday morning stretch class. It's an hour program. It's delightful and very much appreciated by our members. So we'd love for you to join us. Just so I want to mention that this is a class now done at your own risk. So do what you can. We've created a program that will only require you to sit or stand. There will be no props that are needed. So we will do that in the next 15 minutes. I'm also going to put my email as well as a link. If you would like to participate, we offer a discounted rate to village members and offer 2 free weeks. So Hiei, without further ado, thank you for joining us and welcome everybody.
Hello. Thank you, Meredith, for this introduction, and so good to be here and meet you virtually. And the little piece that I'm going to add to your ongoing conversation is, and I'm sure you've talked about this before also, is the importance of movement and feeling well in the body as an important factor in the health of the mind and the brain also. So let's do a little bit of stretching. I welcome you to stand up with me. If you want to be in a seated position, that is fine also. Then you can do the movements while being seated in the chair, and I can also model some for you. Okay, so let us stand up. Let's feel the feet against the ground. Yes, maybe we relax the toes or relax the knees, relax the low back a little bit. And let's place one hand on the chest, the other hand on the belly, and take a deep, satisfying, pleasurable inhale and a deep, satisfying, pleasurable exhale. Maybe some of you want to close your eyes also for a moment here. And let's just ask ourselves, how do I feel inside of the body right now? What do you feel, for example, through the hands? Perhaps you feel the beating of the heart. Perhaps you feel the softness of the skin. Maybe the hands are saying, I would like to travel to a different part of the body, maybe the rib cage, for example. That way you can sense the expansion in the rib cage as you inhale, and a little narrowing as you exhale. Okay, and then if your eyes were closed, feel free to open them. Let's move the arms to the sides, and we bend the knees a little bit, and we lift the arms all the way up. A very expansive movement where you feel the entire body is long. And then the fingers, the palms, the arms, they come down. And then if you're in a standing position, also in a seated position, you can do it. How about a little bend toward the ground? So it's like a bow toward the earth. And then we come up. The arms maybe are quite heavy. And again, the arms, they lift up, the knees, they bend, the heart, the chest goes toward the sky. Now, there are a lot of you in this Zoom room. So next time when we come up, so a little bow to the ground also. Next time when we come up, how about we imagine that we're actually all together in one place, the 183 or so of us together. And imagine we're doing this movement as one group. And then we exhale. And then maybe we bow in the presence of all the participants and all the presenters, the people who are sharing their knowledge and their passion. And then last one, a big inhale. The palms are open, the heart is open to take in also not just the information that you're getting, but also the good intentions. Yeah, the wish to change the world that this group shares. And then last time, and we come up. Okay, how about we lift and lower the shoulder blades? A little movement here in the back of the body. Yeah, this is to sense how the shoulder blades are gliding up and how they're gliding down. Yeah, this is a little stretch also for the chest, and to get some movement going here in the area of the upper back and the neck, you know, they tense up also. And then last two, and then last one. Now how about we keep the shoulder blades where they are? Let's find the fingers, let's interlace them, and we push the palms, the fingers, the knuckles as far to the back as possible. So this is another stretch. These for the chest. These are very nice to do after you have spent a lot of time, for example, behind the computer, to open the chest, okay? And then we pull the belly in, we interlace the fingers in the front, we push the palms away, and we round the back. Okay, you can let the head come closer to the chest also. Yeah, I'm keeping mine up so I can look at you, but you can also, you know, feel the length in the back of the neck as you do it. Nice, and then we come up. Now, let's move the feet a little wider. How about we move the arms a little wider also? Yeah, if you're in a seated position, you just move the arms, yes, but the legs can stay in front of you. Okay, wide like this. It's nice to take up space. Now, how about we glide the rib cage a little bit side to side? Let's see what that does. Yeah, we keep the hips a little even for now. Now feel the length in the arms, the long bones, the long fingers reaching. Yes, if the hands are touching some part of the furniture, that's fine also, we work with it. And then last 4, and 3, and 2, last 1. How about we lift the arms over the head again, and this time let's interlace the thumbs. We reach the palms, the fingers really far up. Now you can soften the toes a little bit. Now this next movement, you can do small or you can do big. I'll show like the medium first. So we do a circle, and you can choose to just move the arms and the upper back a little bit. And then we come up on the other side, yeah? If this is too much, you can, for example, only move the arms. Yeah, maybe the arms don't even want to come so high. You can do a smaller movement like this, yes? And then I'm going to show some bigger movements also. If you want to, you can bend the knees a little bit more deeply and come close to the ground. This is a movement typically we don't do in everyday life. So for the brain, it's also something maybe a little bit different or a little bit new. Yeah, we open the low back. Let's see if we can relax the low back a little bit as you come down. It's nice to come closer to the ground with the exhale. The upper back, yeah, relax the heavy head. The skull has some weight. And then last 2 times, your depth can be higher up, can be, you know, lower to the ground. And then I'm going to do the last one. Okay. Good. Now, how about the hands? We can interlace the fingers. They come to the back of the head. Yeah, maybe one time we open the chest, we move the elbows a little to the back, and then we come back to the center. Let's do some sideways bending sideways. It doesn't matter which side you start from. I'm going to go to the left, and then back to the center, and to the other side. Again, you can choose to stay higher up here, yeah, where the elbow goes more in a vertical position. Or if you have the desire and the spine also is fine with this, you can come quite low with the elbow, quite close to the side of the thigh. There you go. How about 2 more? Yes. And then last one. Good. Now let's stay here. Let's move one hand away. So one arm is sort of limp. You can, if you want to, you can bring the feet a little closer too. Now this next thing, imagine that the hand is simply a weight on the head. So the idea is not to pull the head. It's like I let my hand rest on my brain, okay? My healing hand on my precious brain. And we exhale. Now the head comes a little closer to the side of the body. yeah? And this other shoulder, so in my case, the left shoulder, becomes more heavy. If you want to, you can do some little bitty circles here so that you can feel that you have some control over where the shoulder is in your body. Like it can also come lower down if you let it. Like you can imagine that this arm can simply be heavy. Yeah? And then a little bit, let's turn the head to face the armpit. Go toward the armpit. You can also relax the tongue or the muscles of the face, for example. What feels good in the area of the face. And then the face, the head, they come to the center and a little peak toward the sky. And then you can use the head also, you can use the hand to move the head back over the spine, yes? And now if you feel you want to let the head just move a little bit naturally, nothing very strong in terms of movement, nothing very big, just a little bit of like, let the head travel slightly. And then we can go to the other side, yeah? So the head, again, doesn't need to have to come very close to the shoulder, just a little bit so you can feel the length here. This is optional to put the healing hand over the head. Maybe some of you actually want to use this time to massage the side of the head a little bit. Let the fingers travel, make contact with the skin of the head. Yeah, or it's possible also do some tiny little movements here with the other shoulder to release any tendency to hold the shoulder up. Yeah, and then the nose goes toward the armpit. And inhale, exhale here. And then the face comes to the front, a little peak at the sky to also be in touch with the world around you also. If you can see, for example, the sky from your window, it's a nice moment to like check in with the colors of the sky, the actual sky. And then we bring the head back to the center, over the spine. And again, if you feel like you need to do some other movements here to kind of even out, maybe even like lift the chin up, that's fine too. And then we let the head stay over the rib cage. We moved the rib cage earlier. The part of the body we haven't moved yet is the pelvis. So if you're in a standing position, I invite you to move the pelvis. Yeah, the hands can stay on the sides of the pelvis, or the hands can stay over the shoulder, over the head. You can find different positions. Yeah. And then some the other way also. If you keep going, if you're in a seated position, maybe you decide to do something else at this moment, yeah, because the pelvis is on the ground, is on the seat. So maybe you want to bring the torso over the thighs and relax here for a little bit. Let the back open. Maybe with an inhale, exhale. Or you can use this moment to do a little twist. You move one hand to the back of you, the other hand can stay over the thigh, and like you try to move the rib cage a little bit to the back. And then the other side also, yeah? So for example, something you can do in a seated position. How are the hip rolls going? I have a few more minutes, and then you can go back with the program also, yeah? Where were we on the other side? Okay? And then how about we stay, if you're in a standing position with the legs quite wide, let's move the hips to one corner. So we can stretch a little bit the side of the thigh, the inner side of the thigh. Yes, and we come back to the center. We go to the other side. And we come back to the center. Now how about we put the hands on the thighs, we let the buttocks and the pelvis go to the back. And now how about one shoulder blade comes to the front. Let's do a little twist here too. Yeah, so I push quite strongly the heel of this hand against the thigh. Then we can come back to the center. We do the other side also. These rotating motions are nice also. And then how about we stay here, a little heel toe, and the hands, if they want to, they can maybe come a little closer to the ankles. If not, they can also stay on the thighs, or yeah, you can also take hold of the back of the body. but something, a movement here that makes you come forward, if that's okay. As I said, in a seated position, you can put the chest against the thighs, but is it possible to relax the spine here a little bit? Maybe take hold of the elbows, for example. Deep inhale, exhale. And then we start the slow journey back up. Yeah, feeling the entire body from the soles of the feet. Yeah, the heels, you can feel the buttock muscles. Hopefully the shoulder blades, the back of the neck a little bit more at ease. And then let's close the session here again with some of the same movements, but maybe a little bit different with the palms this time. How about the palms come together in the center? You can do this in your own time also, maybe faster, maybe slower. But so yeah. Okay, is it time to end? Yes, well, thank you so much for being with
Thank you,
us.
Hi.
Thank you,
I
Hia.
appreciate it. Thank you, Vitality. Great little break for all of our folks that need a little stretch and a little break in the day. So thank you very much. Next up, we have a technology session with Helpful Village. So I'd like to introduce Manuel Estedivo. Manuel, you there?
Yes, but
Hiding behind the curtain?
you need to activate my camera. please.
Oh, I didn't do it. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Good
Yes.
job.
Okay,
Excellent.
ready to go.
Very good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Should we get started? So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our presentation about Helpful Village. We're going to start this presentation with a riddle. And the riddle is this: Helpful Village is the only village-only company. So someone has a guess, can write it in the chat in the next 3 seconds. If you don't find it, I'm going to give you the answer. The answer is that Helpful Village is the only company in the world for whom all customers are villages. That's all we do. Just from morning to late at night, we only do villages. And it all started for me with my mom. Actually, a few years back, my mom, that is this person you see on the screen, she's a very active and dynamic person. And she was doing her professional activity. She was taking care of her vineyard, and she loved that. We produced some family grapes and a little bit of wine, and all of that was great until one day she got knee surgery. And with her knee surgery, it became impossible to carry out her professional activity. So the next step is that we had a mother to son conversation where basically it was pretty obvious to me that my mom had to stop working and retire. So that's just what I said, like, Mom, you should stop working. But she said, no, I don't want to be at home doing nothing, which is a great point, I thought. And then she said a little bit more than that, said, I don't want to go. Please, son, promise me you're not sending me to a nursing home, which for me was a shock, because like, who's talking about a nursing home? She was 63 at the time. She was perfectly fit. She just got knee surgery. She cannot be walking on the fields because that's just too harsh on her knees. So this transition that for me was obvious, I realized it was not that obvious, because when my mom asked these two questions, I did not have a good answer. While I understood that the second question was not about present day, was something about what's going to happen in the future as her needs may increase, I still didn't have an answer for her, and I started doing some research. And that's how basically I found the village movement, and I thought the village movement was the perfect solution for my mom's problems. So if you don't want to be at home doing nothing, well, that's great, because your village needs you, and you can be out there helping other people, other neighbors, to stay in their homes, age in their homes, and not go to a nursing home. So the village was just perfect for me. And the next step that I did is that I became a volunteer with my local village in Berkeley, California, knocked on the door, and I asked, how can I help? They told me, well, Manuel, one thing we are having trouble with is that our volunteers, they don't want to use the system that we have. They find it too cumbersome, complicated, difficult to use. And I said, well, I'm a software engineer. Give it to me. It's going to be easy. funny enough, the system was not easy even for me. So I was finding that it was way too complicated. And I decided that I could start a company that would build some software for villages that would be much easier to use, making villages much more effective. So started working on that code. I also submitted an application to the University of Berkeley, California, that selected my project as one of the most promising startup projects of the University of California system. And Berkeley was very important helping me build the company. They helped me with the business and marketing sides because they had faculty from the business school from Berkeley that were helping me set up the company. I had the honor to work with Andy Sharlock, that at the time, till now, maybe the most knowledgeable scholar and researcher about the village movement. And basically, it's from them that I learned about aging in community, aging in place, and also how to build a company. That's the beginning of the Helpful Village story. And basically, all we do is this. When I got into this village where I was a volunteer, and I sat in front of the computer, I found that while it was a great idea to build a village and have neighbors helping neighbors, the process was just too hard. It was a labor-intensive, confusing process where basically it was hard to create a service request and then copy-paste this to put it in an email request that would go out to other people, etc. And all of that was just too much work. And I thought this could be made much easier if we build a dedicated software specifically dedicated to villages that would be easy to use, not only for the volunteers and staff members in the office, but for a person like my mom. If my mom can put in a request on Helpful Village to let people know that she needs to go to a medical appointment, and she can do it herself on the website because we made the website super easy to use, well, that's helping my mom, and that's also helping the village because a lot less work they need to do. So Helpful Village is a customizable solution that has these different modules that is cost effective with a high level of security and that produce strategic reports to let the leaders of the villages know what operations are going well. Perfect. From there, once I got out of the university, basically I started talking with villages. A number of villages were feeling excited about the possibility to use a new, easier to use software. Started, signing up villages, first one village, then a second village, then a third village, and we have been growing. And something that I have heard along the way is that sometimes villages struggle to recruit more members. This is particularly true for new villages that are starting. It's like, well, we have been working for a number of years on building a village, but we are struggling to recruit new members. In my humble opinion, this is what I believe villages should be doing. And this is what we are trying to help you do. We're trying to help you offer more and better services with a little bit of technology, HV standing for Helpful Village. And I'm going to show you this with an example. When the village movement started, most villages were offering these two key services. Services, which is essentially volunteer services. Someone requests something and a volunteer is going to go to the member's house to help, and then organizing social events, both of which were great. At one point, the pandemic hits, so we cannot do in-person events anymore, and our services are made complicated because it's not easy to get two people in the same car. So working with our villages, we improved the services that we were offering to their members. So we did these two key modifications. First, we added to Helpful Village the possibility to have COVID-safe services. So if you have a service request, a volunteer service, like for example, driving, well, that particular service is an in-person type of service. So you can require health requirements, for example, vaccination, and only have vaccinated volunteers that are serving vaccinated members if that's the way your village wants to operate. Another key thing that we did is that as villages were doing many more Zoom events, we blended up Helpful Village and Zoom. So if you register on Helpful Village for an event, basically you get a unique and secure Zoom link for that same event. You don't need to register twice. You don't need to be sending Zoom links. All of that is taken care of by the platform itself. Okay, so at this point, we have services and events. As we were saying, we believe the new generation of villages are offering more value to their members, and we have seen an increasing number of villages doing these services too. We have a module that offers the check-in possibility. So this is basically a phone reassurance program. If you want to have a volunteer that is calling a member from time to time, this is exactly what I would like for my mom. I would like every member of a village to be called from time to time. If this is what your village wants to do, you can go on Helpful Village, set up a phone check-in campaign, define how often you want to call each member. It can be different. And basically your volunteers can receive a reminder so that they need to make a phone call to have a quick phone conversation with one of your members. Another thing that struck me recently is that a growing number of our villages are using Village Talk. Village Talk is a module by which people can engage on an online conversation. So I'm a big proponent of in-person services, in-person events, because it's what I want for my mother. But Village Talk is just so easy for people to just engage on online conversations. It's great going to an event, but if it's late at night, you're not going out, it's great to put a message in there and engage on a conversation with other fellow village members. One village in particular that is I'm very admirative of is Northwest Village Network in Philadelphia that is pushing forward this specific module. We have other villages using it too, but they have been leaders in this space. Now, the tip of the village services is this one element here, is health. When we looked at the data that was being produced by villages, we saw that many of the services and the events were also healthcare related. A lot of members are being driven to medical appointments, to health-related events. So basically, we realized that it was unescapable for villages to do some of the health-related services that their members needed. So this is the vision for our company. Adding a health module to Helpful Village is something that we're doing slowly, but I can announce here that we have started working on this specific topic, and I would like to highlight the participation of Capitol Hill Village, which we believe is a perfect partner to work on about this process. So we already started working on this. It's not a service that we offer today, but we're already coding something. So I'm guessing for next year's conference, we will have the tip of the pyramid, I'm hoping. I know this slide is a little heavy, and you don't need to read all of these boxes, but each one of these boxes is a module in Helpful Village. It's all the different operations that you need to run a successful village. So if you look at the bottom left of the screen, you see editable website. We have a module that allows your village to have a website. That's pretty easy. The next one to it, you have a menu manager that allows you to add more pages to your website. The next one, you have a people management that allows you to collect information about your people in your community, the phone numbers, the contact information, where do they live, their addresses, etc. We have an events module that allows people to register for events. We have an email messenger that allows you to have email communication with your members. We actually added this year also a text messenger service that allows you to send text messages to some of your members that may not do email but are checking on their phones. You can do newsletters and MailChimp synchronization. MailChimp is a tool that does mailing lists and massive emails for marketing and letting know your people about your newsletters. We have a prospects module to recruit new members. We have a module for donations and payments. The members have a possibility to manage their profile. You can have them in groups of volunteers and interest groups. You can have a list of providers that are recommended and reviewed by their members. You have an important module of reports where you can pull reports about your members, volunteers, events, on all the activities of your village. You have a membership management module that allows you to renew your members and pay for membership. Village Talk is the online conversation. Concierge Services allows to match service requests from a member with a professional provider. And also to the right of that box is volunteer matching, where it's rather than a professional provider, it's a volunteer from the village that is doing that. So you don't need to remember all of these boxes. What you need to remember is that a successful village needs to run all of these operations. If you're a new village and you think that you can set up a website with, let's say, WordPress or just some sort of Wix or something like that, it's nice to get started, but it cannot allow you to run a successful village that has all these complex, interactive operations that need to connect to one another. We have also a module for Zoom. We have a module for these phone check-ins. And we added this year 2 new modules that I would like to describe here. The first one is that you have the possibility to run your background checks from Helpful Village. So if you have a new volunteer that came up, you create this person on Helpful Village, and then with a partner that we have, you can request a background check, then that goes through our partner, and they check their criminal records, their DMV records, etc. And you're going to have the results of that background check without going to any other separate platform. I know there are questions in the chat, and I cannot read the chat or the questions, so I'll be waiting a little bit for later. Unless if there is an urgent question, please just unmute and ask it live, and I'm happy to respond. There's another important module that we added this year is the emergency plans. So this is a super interesting project. We have been working with some of our villages, in particular, Jersey Village, Senior Outreach, JVSO, that presented yesterday how they organize their emergency plans against the tornadoes in Texas, right near Houston. Another village we work with for these emergency plans is Sausalito Village in California. They, JVSO, Sausalito, and Sale in Madison, Wisconsin, made a presentation about emergency plans organized by the village that was very interesting yesterday. If you didn't see it, we recommend that you go watch it. You go watch the recording. We have definitely added emergency plan features to Helpful Village. For example, Jersey has a group list that they can send a text message asking if everyone is okay after a tornado or a power shutdown happened. People can reply to that text message. We can display people on a map that have responded, and more importantly, people that have not responded and maybe need urgent help. So basically the villages are coordinating with local authorities, fire department, to make sure every member is taken care of in case of an emergency. So those 3 villages have been doing a great job, and they have been helping us build new functionality into Helpful Village for emergency plans. Okay, so this is a different slide. This is basically the evolution over time. So I started the company in 2016 at that exciting time when I looked so young in Berkeley. We had exactly 0 customers. And I ask you to believe me when I tell you that it's not very fun when you have a company without any customers that are not paying $0. So, but that's where we were. We realized that there was a need and a hunger in the village movement for easier to use software. And these numbers prove it, because we have been growing super rapidly. Just basically the Bay Area villages started hearing about new software and modern software that was easier to use. They talked to each other, started growing in California at first, then basically more than double the number of customers in 2018, about double the number of customers in 2019. In 2020, we didn't double it, but it was COVID year. And it's quite remarkable that even during COVID, we kept adding more villages because villages realized that they needed better technology to run their operations. 2021, we grew again, and then we are now approaching the 100 villages using Helpful Village. So this is a rapid growth. Essentially, this is a clear trend of villages adopting our technology. And this is a geographical view of these villages. So we started in the Bay Area, California, started growing there the first year, but then very rapidly the word expanded. And now we have these 100 villages across the country. Actually, we have more villages in the East Coast today than we have on the West Coast. And actually, we have logos there for each village, but I know they are on top of each other a little bit. If you look at California, for example, there are 18 boxes in the state of California. We have 18 villages in California that have signed up with Helpful Village for their services. So that's California. Here's another hotspot. What's interesting is that not only Helpful Village is the most widely used village platform today, but it's also present in the hotspots of the movement. We talked about California, where a large majority of villages are using our software. Washington, DC is obviously another area that is at the forefront of the village movement. Some time ago, we signed one village there, and this is how we grew in Washington, DC a little bit. I think by the next year, we had their neighbors. Kind of quite interesting because it proves that we don't do much kind of electronic marketing or sales, just the word of mouth helps us grow. And where we are today is that we have 12 villages in Washington, DC that are using Helpful Village. So a lot of the villages in any given area, once they have a neighbor that have tried our technology, end up basically transitioning to the easier to use tool. This is California, Washington, DC. Another area that is quite interesting is Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where we have about 6 or 7 villages that are using our software there. Usually what happens when you have a village using it, well, the neighboring villages want to use it too. Here's another example, Columbus, Ohio, another hotspot of the village movement, where villages are supported by the city, the county, age-friendly, AAA, etc. So Columbus also has largely adopted Helpful Village. One thing we realized is that, in particular for me, when I was discussing with the Berkeley professor, that the village movement was largely white. Essentially, his numbers and his research showed that 97.5% of the respondents were white. And that was a little surprising to me because my mom is Hispanic. She's not particularly high income, and the village was the perfect solution for her. So one big commitment of Helpful Village is make sure that we can expand the reach of the village movement to more diverse neighborhoods. This is happening, and we're very excited about this. You can see on the left one of our villages in Columbus, Ohio, that has a strong presence of African American population. And we are particularly excited about Pueblos en la Comunidad. That is the first Spanish-speaking village in the nation. It's an effort that we wanted to encourage and support. We actually translated Helpful Village into Spanish to make sure that people that don't speak English, they still can rely on their community. So we're expecting to grow the number of villages in the Hispanic community in large numbers, and the same thing for the African American community and any other community. Actually, our efforts towards diversity have been recognized, and I received an American Society on Aging grant. Sorry, the American Society on Aging granted a RISE Fellowship to myself as Helpful Village CEO. So Peter this morning mentioned this program. It's a program by the American Society on Aging that is recognizing the work of people of color in the aging industry. You can see my picture right there with my colleagues. We worked for about 6 months on different initiatives to increase diversity in our different aging sectors. And I wanted to take advantage of this presentation to thank Peter, American Society on Aging CEO, for setting up this program and for selecting me to be part of it. So I know he's not here right now, I guess, but I still needs to be thanked for. I wanted to give you an idea of the pricing, because so far I've been telling you about this high quality platform and how exciting it is. But I also believe this can only be done if we have a super affordable software platform for villages. So we have 2 different packages. We have the in-development village package that costs the following. There is a monthly fee, and the monthly fee is a flat fee of $30 per month. So the whole shebang that we saw before, with all these different modules that allow to run a village, they only cost $30 per month. If you're a new village or in development village that is getting started, just try to find those $30, because having a little bit of software will help you set up your village much quicker. There is another fee, which is the enrollment fee. And this is a one-time fee. You only pay once to set up your system. And the one-time fee for an in-development village is $300. You pay that once, maybe something you can get through donations or a grant. But basically for $300 and then a $30 a month, you're up and running, and then you can start building your village. Now, quite honestly, I think this is a no-brainer because it's the easy and affordable solution. And this seems to be true because most of the new in-development villages today decide to start with Helpful Village because it just makes their life easier to start with easier to use platform. And another thing that is quite remarkable is just the growth. So at Helpful Village, we believe it's super important for in-development village, these 2 principles here, that they can start quicker and then they can grow faster. So here I'm just showing a chart of the growth of one of our in-development villages that is doing a fantastic job. And this is their growth in terms of members they serve over a year. So a year ago, October 2021, they had essentially their funding group. And then you see, I mean, I don't need to explain, you see the rapid growth in terms of members they're serving, and now they're approaching also 100 members in their community. We wanted to applaud their work. And I need to say that we believe it's also because they had the right tools to start their village quicker and to grow it faster. We have a second package. The second package we offer is the established village package. And basically, this is what you use once you have gotten your village to a point where you start servicing your members. When you start offering service requests or member dedicated services. So basically an in-development village is going to set up events, prospects, collect people information, all of that. But when they are ready to open their village, they transition to the established village package. And this village package has a different fee structure. There is a monthly fee of $1 per member per month. That's all. So if your village has 50 members, well, then you will pay $50 that month. And if the next month you have 54 members, well, that month you pay $54. So still very reasonable pricing. And obviously, as you grow your village, well, we grow with you. So we make you successful. And because we make you successful, we hope to be successful with you. In the established village package, there is an enrollment fee of $3,000 one-time fee. So we understand this number is higher. So the first thing, and it's usually the only hurdle kind of that villages need to jump over because the monthly fee is so reasonable. And we understand this. Now I wanted to say a few things about this enrollment fee. First, this fee will never be paid by the in-development villages. So the in-development villages that started with a $300 fee, they can upgrade to established at no cost. They will not pay the enrollment fee because they already paid an enrollment fee once and there is no upgrade fee. So the $3,000 only apply to villages that are established and that happen to have started with a system they don't want to have anymore and they want to change. So if you are replacing your old software with new software, then you need to pay this amount because there is a lot more work to migrate the data, etc. Now, the good news is that we have already done 40 migrations from Club Express to Helpful Village. So while this process takes a little time and effort and money, it's something we're very familiar with. We know exactly how this works. We know what reports you need to produce. The process is very simple. Basically, you need to go to Club Express in a given area where they say you can produce their reports, the CSV reports that they're called. This is essentially spreadsheet files. You produce those spreadsheet files, you send them to us, and then we run a program on our side, and we can put all that information that you have been collecting over the years into the Helpful Village database, and you can run reports about your past activities and your present activities and so forth. So we understand that that enrollment fee is, is something we need to find a solution for as a village, but it's something we have seen, as you can see on the screen, many times working. Just basically villages accept to pay this enrollment fee once, but basically they're saving money over time because they offer more and better services to their members. Why would you do that if you're an established village packet? First of all, as I said, if you want to offer high quality services, we believe you need to have the best tools. And if this didn't convince you, there's a second reason, is that everybody else seems to be doing it. So you don't want to be the last village in your area using an older software platform. And we recommend you join the more modern villages that are using Helpful Village. There is an aspect that we believe is super important, is that we offer Helpful Village as an individual service for each village, but we are strong believers in inter-village collaboration. So I'm putting here the picture of Washington, D.C., because they have set up a beautiful collaboration among the villages in that area. They set up this organization that is called DC Villages. They coordinate their events and how they work and share best practices, and we love that. We have been doing some work with them, in particular, producing some aggregate data reports. We actually produce some reports that they can use with the District of Columbia. And there is something that all other villages across the nation should be doing, is that they're receiving funding from the taxpayers' money. So basically, the Department of Aging in the District of Columbia is paying villages money for the good work that they do. And that is all good, and they can only do it because they are able to report the data about what are the activities that they're doing, how many members they're helping, how many events are they setting up, how many people participate on those events. There are some specific requirements that we have done because the unique participants and events. If in your area, your village can receive public funding, please contact us at Helpful Village because we want to produce the reports that you need so that you receive that public funding. We do a lot more things about this collaboration for villages. We offer hub and spoke module. Actually, our first customer that we had was Marine Villages. That is a very, very successful hub and spoke village. They're serving 5 or 6 different towns with several hundred members. They are hub and spoke village. They were our first village, and then we have been doing hub and spoke features since day one. There's another thing that is super exciting, is these 2 projects maybe you have heard about. One is the Taxonomy Project, and the other one is the VIP Project. So the Taxonomy Project is a project we started working on with Capitol Hill Village last year, by which Capitol Hill Village did a very important work classifying the services that villages do. Let me explain to you the problem very quickly. We had all these dozens of villages using Helpful Village across the country, but they were all able to customize the name of their volunteer activities. They were all calling their activities with different names, maybe transportation, maybe some other village was calling it a ride or driving. Well, all these 3 things are basically the same thing. So we had a taxonomy or a universal dictionary of services that works across the nation. Well, then we could add up the numbers nationally and basically understand a better classification, a universal classification of services. So this is a super interesting project that we really liked, and we worked hard with Capitol Hill Village to do this. They set up the classification, how to classify and organize the different services. Helpful Village was excited about using that taxonomy with our customers so that they can classify their services with the universal taxonomy and then basically produce regional reports. We did it at first for all the villages in DC that we're serving. We were applying this taxonomy, and then we thought, wow, this is something that could be done nationally. And this is something that is now happening nationally. So there is this VIP project. It's a V2V project that we believe is super important, and we want to support, participate in, and encourage all villages to participate and look at the VIP project, because it's more or less taking nationally the idea we had with Capitol Hill Village to add up the numbers and understand the data collection of the services and members that we do, we initially did in DC. So there was a presentation yesterday that if you missed it, I want to strongly recommend you do. The presentation is actually this one. Carol Paquette, Bill Kincaid, Erin Mabasi, so board members of V2V, presented yesterday this VIP project. It's called the Village Impact Project, moving towards the measuring their mission. This presentation happened yesterday by them. If you didn't see it, I insist, you need to watch it. You need to watch the recording. This, for me, is one of the most important projects we're working on at Helpful Village, and I believe one of the most important projects at V2V. Within this project, we approached all our customers actually at Helpful Village, and then 31 of them were ready to jump on right then and there. So we received authorization of all the villages you can see here. There's Capitol Hill Village that you can find on the list, but there's many other villages across the nation, in California, in New Mexico, in Maryland, and they were all agreeing to share a small slice of their data so that we can add up the number of members, etc. We produced a report with that information that we sent to V2V. Once we received the authorization from our customers, said, well, this is great. We can send a report adding up these numbers that we sent to V2V, showing basically the total number of members, total number of volunteers, total number of services, and services provided, number of hours of those services for a full year. Well, so with this data, now V2V can better understand what's going on. For example, they saw that there was a 10% increase in the number of members for those villages, which is a good thing to know. And basically analysis of what type of services the villages were doing. So as you can see there, Bill pointed out that transportation accounted for almost half of the services provided for villages. So now with this data collection initiative that we are happy to do with V2V, we have a better understanding of what is it that villages do nationwide. And we're very excited about this. We recommend all villages to join this VIP project. Now, why is VIP so important? The answer is here. And this is another question I have for the audience. You don't need to unmute, but if you can write this on the chat. I would like to ask you, who knows what this stands for? What is capable? What is HARP? And I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Capable and HARP are 2 programs that are very interesting. The first one stands for Community Aging in Place, Advancing Better Living for Elders. So those are the initials for CAPABLE. It's a program by the Johns Hopkins University. Basically, what they designed is a program in which they put occupational therapist, a nurse, and a handyman that go work with older adults in the community. And basically, they go to their home, assess the situation of the home. There's probably some home modifications that need to be made. The nurse is going to take care of the health of the person, that this person is taking good care of things. And basically, with this program, they were able to show that they could have a positive impact in the lives of older adults. Second program that you see there is HARP. And that stands for Home Hazard Removal Program, which I will not describe in more detail because I think it's quite self-explanatory. Now, this is another aging program that is very interesting. I think there is another aging program that is very interesting. It's called Villages. And I know that you know this third one. So what is interesting here with the VIP project is that the two first ones here that you see are funded. There are federal dollars. The government is paying these aging programs. And this is what are called in the aging space evidence-based programs. It's essentially programs that have proven how efficiently they can help older adults. And for that reason, the federal government has agreed to give money to these programs. Now, obviously, in my view, villages should also be funded by federal dollars. And basically, we need to put a red funded sign to the left of villages. How can we do that? Well, the first thing is talking with DC, I guess. And the good news is that policymakers want to give dollars to villages. Maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't know this, but I have been in meetings with leaders of V2V where basically these policymakers and policy advisors and think tanks were saying, we love this program, we love what villages do, we would love to fund it, but we can't. And the reason we can't is because we need to have data and scientific study proving the efficiency of that program. When we met with them, we did not have the VIP project. So we were unable to provide accurate information about number of members, number of services that we were doing. So we said, oh, so good that you wanted to fund it. So sorry, we don't have the data ready. We got to work. Now we have the data ready. So I'm hoping that V2V is ready to go back at them, knock on their door and say, hey, remember you loved our program? You needed the data? Well, now we start having the data. We want to get this done. Second part of the data is basically the measurement of what villages are doing. But that's not enough for government to fund this program. They need basically science, researchers proving that this is effectively an efficient program. It's not just a claim. We can, they cannot just believe you because you tell them. They need to measure it scientifically. Because the scientific study shows effectiveness in an objective way. So I have met the people from CAPABLE, right? Because it's a successful aging program. And I asked them, how did you do this? And basically, they did some research. And this is the type of study that they did. They have found that 75% of people improve, and their average improvement is cutting in half their amount of disability. And this is the researcher that did it. He's also the program leader. They found another result. CMS evaluators found that it saves $10,000 per year per participant for up to 2 years to Medicare. And then you have the researcher that did this. So it's very important that you understand that first step is having the data. Once we have the data, we can talk with the researchers. And this is the kind of work that a researcher will do. Is like, okay, if we look at the data, we can do an estimate of how much money this is saving the government. And if we're saving money for the government can fund villages. This is what we call evidence-based programs. So just in a nutshell, villages have an impact on their communities. We need to produce data. That data allows for an evidence-based scientific study. And because we have the scientific study, we can have funding. So I'm super excited that V2V has started this new project, and we're super happy to participate in it. Again, I encourage all villages to join the efforts of the VIP project. Now, if HARP and CAPABLE did it, why would villages not make it? And my answer is, yes, we can. We are, in my opinion, we're just doing it. If we have national data through the VIP project, if more villages sign up, rather than counting the thousands of members we just have on that report, we can go to tens of thousands of members that are receiving services from villages. And if we can do a scientific study, then we can get funding to your village. My personal belief is that your village is working way hard with your private funding to get all that work done. And if we should have government pay you for all the work you do. Skip this for now. I'm gonna check on the time because I wanna allow some time for questions. Okay, so this is an example of the data that we produce at Helpful Village. I spoke about the reporting module. These are two excerpts of two of our most popular reports. On the left is an impact report. It shows in a one-pager report how many members do you have, how many volunteers, how many community hours have been done in a period of time, how many events have been organized, how many events have been participated in, how many phone check-ins you have done in that period of time, how many volunteer services you have done. There are more reports. There is also a taxonomy report that I was saying, classifying those services, what type of services we're doing. On the right-hand side, you can see the board report is basically an analysis of the demographic for one given village. You see that you have the age in the bottom. So basically the younger person in this village is 49. The oldest group is between 96 and 100 years old. So producing data is something that we are very good at, and we're very excited about doing that with V2V. Now, back to this evidence-based program. Remember this one, impact data, evidence-based funding. If HARP is capable, yes, we can, we wanna do it. Okay, then what's next step to do it? First step is that we need to collect the data, we need to enroll more villages so that we can produce more national data. Once we have that national data, we need to do a scientific study. So who's gonna do the scientific study? And I'm gonna allow for 2 seconds. I'm hoping in my dreams that you're, trying to answer these questions in the chat, but I actually don't know. Scientific study is gonna be done by a university. Good news is where I'm coming from. From the very, very early days of Helpful Village, from day one, I was in a professor's office talking with him about how can we have research prove the efficiency of villages with so many volunteers putting so much useful work to help their neighbors. Science should be able to prove that there is nothing as cost effective as care through a village. Now, my only problem is that my dear professor retired, so he's not doing this research anymore, so I had to find other solutions. Now I have a good news for you, is that over the years, I've been collaborating with different universities, including the Ohio State University, that is in Columbus, Ohio. No surprise, because that's one of the hotspots where we have many villages. But we have also done research with villages in Stanford University. We're very excited about that collaboration. More recently, and is where our highest hopes are right now, is to conduct some research with Rutgers University, where I believe today they have the most knowledgeable aging community researcher in the US. And this is a person that is interested in looking at villages data, and basically running a scientific study that would maybe turn into an evidence-based program and translate into funding. I also promised that I would do a big announcement today, and the announcement is connected to this, because the scientific study is so important for an evidence-based program. In talking to all these these universities, the latest one to be in the club is USC, University of Southern California, and I believe USC can also be playing an important role in the future of the village movement. I have another announcement, and my second announcement is that I am now adjunct lecturer, so I'm now teaching at USC, which is a good thing. Makes me happy because it's important to teach future generations. Makes me happy for several other reasons. I already started teaching. I made sure that the class I'm teaching, they all hear about villages, that they all know that villages is the most effective way to do this. Some of the people in my class, it's actually a graduate class. So people in my class are in the PhD program at USC. So maybe, I don't know, but there is a possibility that the person doing the scientific study that will translate into an evidence-based program is one of the people in my class. Maybe. I like to dream about it. but at least we're trying. Another thing that I want to mention here is that obviously this is a part-time position. My main focus is to work on Helpful Village. This is an assignment for a graduate class. I actually teach 3 hours per week to USC master's and PhD students. And one thing that should be mentioned here is why USC hired me, right? So I believe they hired me because they see merit in the village movement. So if we want to have a scientific study, we want to have universities and prestigious universities that are interested in what we're doing. Here, I can tell you, USC is interested in villages. Now, will they do the scientific study? I don't know, we'll try, but I'm definitely talking already with people about how interesting the villages are. You have there my email at USC, but don't use it because I just used that one for teaching purposes. So you can keep using the usual manual at Helpful Village. I'm gonna go into questions. This is my last slide of the day. So basically reminding you that, for your village, what is your takeaway? That you should level up the services of your village. Make sure that you're offering high quality services and that you're seeking village excellence through your programs. If you're doing services and events, well, that's good. It's a good start. In my opinion, it's not enough. You need to make sure that you offer other programs to your village members, maybe phone check-ins, maybe village talk, maybe some of the health services or case management that we're working on with Capitol Hill, but you need to make sure that you have excellent services for your members. Second reason to join Help Village, that we're involved with data and research projects, and as we just explained, and this is the key for federal funding that I believe is the future of the village movement. Just my last point here, just my contact information. So that's our website. If you're interested to learn more about Helpful Village, you can go to our website, learn more about it, or send us an email. We will be happy to schedule a demo, a presentation, etc., starting next week. So we're happy to be here with you and to hear from new villages that are signing up with Helpful Village. And with this, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I would like to welcome some questions.
All right, you've got a ton of questions there, Manuel. Would you like me to read them to you, or?
Yes, please read them to me because I didn't have my chat open.
All right, Rich says, is the Zoom event function a module that must be purchased separately, or is it part of the regular HV platform?
Mm-hmm. So basically what you do is that you need to set up a Zoom account with them and you need to pay, I don't remember the fees, maybe something, I don't remember. So you set up a Zoom account and basically
you integrate it. Okay,
and
so
then you can connect. Sorry.
So it requires a paid Zoom account.
It requires
from
a
the
paid Zoom
village,
account.
but then it's integrated with the platform.
And then the integration with Helpful Village costs $5 per month. So it's a premium feature, but it only costs $5.
All right. What is included in the menu manager?
Menu manager is just a way to add more pages. You see, so when you start your new village, we give you maybe 10 different pages. What is our village about? Becoming a member, becoming a volunteer, but maybe you need more pages or rearrange the order of your pages. You can do that through the menu manager, like basically the menu of the website.
Okay. All right. And whoops. And Paul says, is there a monthly fee for non-members, providers, donors, volunteers, contractors, etc., for established villages?
Great question. The answer is no. So when you're set up with Helpful Village, you only pay for your members. So if you have, let's say, 51 members with established package and 100 volunteers, you pay $51. If you have 51 members and 150 volunteers, you still pay $51. What we believe is that we need to tie our success to the success of your village. And we believe the success of your village is helping more members. So we want to help you basically not tax you when you recruit volunteers, but basically make sure that we help you build your village to help more members.
Okay, great. Sarah asks, have you thought about developing something for inter-village communication?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. So we do some some data exchanges. As I said before, for a long time, we have been working with the villages in Washington, D.C. To produce some of the reports that are aggregating their data. And we're in discussion, and DC has a very interesting village collaboration project, but I don't want to unveil it now because we're working on it. But when it will be ready, we'll tell you more about it. But DC is a perfect example of village collaboration, and they work with us to say, okay, we're collaborating on this. Can you help add this to the software? And then we are also happy to do that. Actually, I would like to mention another important aspect I didn't mention, is that because all we do is villages, we value the feedback of villages and the requests for improvement from villages a lot, because that's all we do. And we organize 2 monthly meetings. So essentially, we do a webinar with all our customers where we announce all the improvements we have done on any given month. And then we do a second webinar that we do, actually is hosted by VTV. So it's on the VTV calendar, where basically we do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions about Helpful Village, you can find those events on the VTV website. And then basically we have questions and answers from Helpful Village customers and non-customers.
Great. Okay, in the wellness check premium feature, do those calls count as a service request? Currently, I enter the volunteer calls as a service request.
Yes. So service request is essentially, it's funny because it's the first service we started doing. So service request is essentially when you need a volunteer to do something. So I understand why they were putting it there, because it can be done that way. It's like, oh, we need a volunteer for something, and then people sign up for it. The check-in module is a little bit more advanced because people have the possibility to record some information. So we are super excited about something that Jersey, JVSO, so Jersey Village in near Houston is doing, is that when there is this emergency, like a tornado going on, they're sending this text message out, and maybe sometimes they want to have their volunteers calling their members. And basically these phone check-ins are a little bit different because you can record some other information about, for example, how is this person feeling? If there was a tornado, you can have a person that say, I'm feeling good or okay, 4 or 5. Well, you don't need to take care of that person too much. But if when you are doing that check-in, the person say, I'm not feeling good, I'm not doing well, because maybe the house is inundated or any other reason, the village knows, oh, wow, this person is not doing good. This is someone we need to keep an eye on, or maybe call the police or the fire department on it. So basically, the service request is kind of a more basic way to do a check-in. We have developed a more detailed program for the phone check-ins where you can record how this person is feeling, this person needs medication or food, and also take notes about what was discussed during that presentation. So it's a more specialized version of a service request.
Great. Okay. Lucas asks, do you offer QuickBooks online integration? And I saw a mention of MailChimp as in one of your slides. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So Helpful Village is the website where you can run all your village operations. So people can make donations there. You can send messages out, etc. But we work in partnership with other tech tools that are able to communicate with Helpful Village. One good example, as you said, is MailChimp. So basically, you create a MailChimp account, you give us the key, and our server can talk to the MailChimp server when we're sending a marketing email out for recruiting new volunteers, for example. For same thing we do for these other providers. Another net kind of partner that I'd like to mention is Stripe. Stripe is a secure online payments platform. So if you're accepting donations and payments, it's the kind of same of stuff. We accept the donation on the village website, but the actual financial transaction happens with our partner, Stripe. Now, I know there was a question about QuickBooks. So first, I would say QuickBooks is what we use at Helpful Village. So for our own accounting, we use the online version. We think it's great. It's what we recommend villages that they do, that they use the QuickBooks online account. And we produce a number of reports that allow either to, basically track the payments with your QuickBooks account, or also import into QuickBooks the transactions that can be done on Helpful Village. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there are 2 different ways to do this. My favorite way is that you can connect QuickBooks with your bank account so that it accounts for every financial movement that happens on your bank account, and then you map it with the Helpful Village transactions. And there is another way, which is like, okay, you can not connect QuickBooks to your bank account and then just import the payments from a report.
Okay, great. And then Lucas says, is there an online interactive demo village that curious people can play around with?
It's an excellent question. So what we offer is that we offer a 30-day free trial of our platform. So any village that is interested or curious about what we do, they can contact our team. We're happy to talk with you, either set up a demo or set up a trial dedicated for your village. So it's not an anonymous thing where other people are messing around. We can create one free trial for your own village so you can try it and explore it. We actually create it for real. It's the real deal. We send you password instructions, and then you can go in there and try it as if you were a member, as if you were a volunteer, as if you were a donor. You can try all of it for 30 days. And then at the end of the and all of that for free. So at the end of the 30 days, what most often happens is that people are super excited about having a tool that is so helpful for their business. And basically they tell us that they would like to sign up with us. So we send the contract at the time at the end of the 30 days, and then they can sign it. And then if they don't want to use it, well, then don't sign it and then don't pay anything. So it's really easy to get a trial going, to test it, and there is no commitment, no decision, no financial decision. It's totally free to get a trial going.
Great. Let's see. Melissa says, is the Village Impact Project moving towards measuring our mission presentation? Oh, this is for me. I think we recorded that Village Impact Project one. I uploaded some recordings yesterday. It was kind of challenging, but I believe we do have that.
I think we do.
Okay, good. Okay.
So again, that project, I mean, we recommend everybody to watch that recording that exists. I also know with working with Carol and Bill that they are planning to organize some upcoming webinars on the V2V website to explain and let people more know about the VIP project, how to participate, how to join the data subcommittee, etc. So there will be some announcements and other events that will be popping up on the V2V calendar, as I understand.
Right. Let's see. David had a question about, do you help if somebody wanted to migrate from Club Express?
Oh yeah. So that's big time. So this is where we have done it a number of times. This is where I started. When I started in Berkeley, the village I was at was with Club Express. So from day one, from the last 7 years, I've heard this story. We have done it multiple times. Today, we have done it 40 times, migrating it. So we're very familiar with the process migrating from Club Express. We know exactly what are the reports you need to produce to get your data in a file that you can send to us, and then we can import into our database, and we keep you going with the data that you produce from Club Express. So yes, we have a lot of
how long
understanding.
does that process take?
So usually just the tech process, it can be done under 48 hours, right? Now, obviously, what happens at villages take advantage of this opportunity to maybe clean up their data, because maybe, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but Club Express has this member database and non-member database, which is something that I find a little bit surprising, but you have the same person in two different tables, so you can have duplicates and stuff like that. So people sometimes spend some time cleaning up the database, so that's something they do on their own. And then once they have it ready for us, is something we do in 24, 48 hours for the data migration.
All right. Do you recommend that an established village that already has a website stay with that one, or create a new one through Helpful Village?
Mm-hmm. So it's your choice. So basically, if you think about a bank, sometimes you go to the bank and the bank has a marketing website where they're talking about their savings account and stuff like that. And then sometimes you have their online banking, which is kind of this high security, more functional, interactive platform. We have some people doing that. They have a kind of some sort of a public website, and then they have kind of this more advanced, rich interaction with Helpful Village, which would be kind of maybe the members area. In my view, it's better to have both on the same platform, the website and the services on Helpful Village, because then we can display more interesting things. Like, for example, you can display on your website upcoming events or the list of birthdays that are coming up or other things like that. So if you have the website with us, well, we can pull in interesting information to the from the database that can make your website more attractive or interesting.
Cool. I think we got through all the questions and we're pretty much out of time. So thanks a
And make
lot.
sure, I mean, there's some technical questions that Manuel most certainly can answer at our user group.
Mhm.
So please check our calendar. I don't know off the top of my head the date, but be happy to send out reminders. And again, all the materials that Manuel has done
Mhm.
today, the recordings from the previous, they're not going to be out on Friday. I'm going to guarantee you that. Okay, so don't expect everything to be out right away. Give Travis and I a couple days to get all the materials from Steve and coordinate the recordings and everything. So Manuel, thank you so much. Great overview, and we appreciate your time and all your effort with the Village Movement.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the time and opportunity to present. It was a pleasure to, come to the gathering and meet with all villages.
Great. Thanks. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're waiting.
She's coming in. She came in, and then so we have our speaker, ARP speaker, coming on momentarily. She's waiting in the wings. She'll be on in 1 second.
All right. This is a good time to just remind people that tomorrow you'll have a different login for day 3 than you had for day 2. And if you receive the one for day 2, then you're going to receive the one for day 3, I think. So we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Yeah, and we most certainly can resend it to everyone if they've lost it. So not a problem.
Great.
And here's our speaker, Shannon. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, glad to be
Yes.
here.
You could have snuck in early.
So
So,
I saw my face on the panel and I was like, I don't know if that's my panel, so let me just jump off.
well, everyone, I'd like to welcome Shannon Guzman. She's the Director of Housing and Livable Communities with ARP Public Policy Institute. She's also the Deputy Director for ARP Enterprise Housing Issue Area. Works in housing and livable communities policy, as well as building initiative partnerships in the housing space. So lots of background with housing, and we look forward, because this is a huge, super big issue with a lot of our communities and housing. So I'm going to let you take it over from here. So thank you, Shannon.
Sure, glad to be here with you all. Barbara, thanks for the invite to come to join the conversation today and the conference. I'm going to share my screen, if you bear with me for a second, so we can get started.
You got it? Yeah, good.
You see it?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, that's great. All right, so I wanted to start off our conversation today with talking about AARP's perspective on housing and how we can expand age-friendly housing options for people of all ages. As Barbara mentioned, I'm Shannon Guzman, Director of Housing and Livable Communities, and I work at AARP's Public Policy Institute. And for those not familiar with the Public Policy Institute, we do research and analysis on issues that affect the 50+ and their families, looking at Social Security, healthcare. And in my particular area, we look at ways that we can make communities more livable, which includes housing. So what is a livable community? So one that's safe, secure, has certain amenities and services that will support people as they age so that they can remain active, engaged, and independent in community life. So one of the things that we like to share with folks is thinking about how our demographics are changing. And that has an impact on the type of communities that we're going to need to create over time to make sure that we're creating places where everyone can benefit and have a good quality of life. So one of the things that you probably already know is that we're a rapidly aging country, and that the number of people age 65 and older will outnumber those who are 18 and under in just a few short years. And the majority of people are telling us at AARP that they want to remain in their homes and communities as they age. So we want to make sure we're keeping aging in mind as we develop our communities, and that includes the type of features and services and amenities that we want to see. So one thing is that we have a lot of family caregivers in the United States. So 1 in 5 Americans are a family caregiver, and they're caring for people they either live with or caring for someone who lives alone. We're also seeing that 48% of adults are single folks, and we also have 27% of single people who are living alone. We also see that housing is becoming out of reach for a lot of households, especially those households headed by people who are 65 and older. The number of cost burden households, and that means people who are spending 30% or more of their monthly income on housing, grew by 200,000 people to nearly 10 million households in 2017. And of those households, 5 million people were spending 50% or more of their income on housing. We also know that the housing stock that we have, that we're living in, that may be available to us if we're looking for new places to live, just doesn't have the certain features that we need in order to age in them. So we may encounter a lot of physical barriers to navigating through the home. But also in our own research, we found that people do feel that it is important to have homes that are more accessible and have certain features that make them easier to navigate. So what is it that older adults want? So older adults are telling us, or adults in general are telling us, that what different things that they want to see in their communities. They want to have access to grocery stores with healthy food options nearby. They want high quality healthcare services. They want housing located near these services. They want to see affordable housing options. And they want to be able to participate both civically and socially in their communities. Okay. And so this here, this slide looks at the different generations. Oftentimes, generations are pitted against each other, and that can be unfortunate because we miss out on opportunities or areas where we actually agree. And so when AARP asked adults what they wanted, I'll highlight the 65 plus age group. When it comes to housing, they're looking for contractors who can help them modify their homes. They want their homes located near the activities in which they participate and also those key services. And they want to see different affordable housing options in their own neighborhoods. And that is very similar across younger generations as well. So that provides or gives us an opportunity to work together as a community to try to take action to make sure that we're including these things when we're thinking about housing solutions within our neighborhoods. See. All right. So, but we know that historically communities have not been built to think about housing. They weren't developed with housing in mind. So many communities aren't prepared for those who are aging. And so we see communities that have limited access to certain vital services or services that could help support folks. We see a growing housing cost burden, as I mentioned. There are a lack of different housing types to accommodate someone at different life stages or with different circumstances. We know that our mobility changes as we age. So the risk of developing certain disabilities increases as we get older. And we know we see communities also with different health disparities. So with keeping these things in mind, we need to make sure as we think about the future of our communities, we want to make sure we're creating places where everyone, people of all ages, all backgrounds, can thrive, and they should benefit everyone. So as I mentioned before, the types of things that we like to see in a livable community, a variety of housing options. We like to see various destinations within a community that you can access with different transportation options, riding your bike, walking, using public transportation, access to healthy food options, and access to places like libraries, which are important, where people can get information about community events. They can also access the internet if they don't have it. And so we want to see a variety of these amenities in our communities. And again, when you have a livable community, it enables you to remain active and independent in community life. So what is AARP's approach to some of the housing solutions? And before I mentioned age-friendly housing, and we have this framework where we look at housing through various pillars, but I wanted to step back for a bit and let you know that housing is something that is part of our DNA of AARP. And has been from the beginning. And this is just a quick step back in time. Our founder, Dr. Percy Andrus, she found one of her she was a teacher, retired teacher, and found one of her former colleagues living in a chicken coop. And so it was very important for her to address issues of affordable housing and making sure that people had places that they could afford, and that they were experiencing a high quality of life as they age. And then step forward again into history in the 1960s. Dr. Andrus, she reached out to President Dwight Eisenhower to show him a home that had universal design features in it that would help people to age safely in their homes without physical barriers. And then moving forward from there, we have a focus today on age-friendly housing, and back in 2015, 2016, we worked on a design competition in Memphis, Tennessee, where we renovated an existing home to integrate certain universal design features into the home to really take policy off of the page. We talk a lot about what people can do or what solutions are out there, but this was a way that we could actually showcase what it means to have an ageless home where anyone of any age or ability could live. See. So as I mentioned, we have this framework about that focuses on age-friendly housing with these 3 pillars. So one is expanding housing options. Right now, a lot of people may live in a neighborhood that is dominated by one type of housing, either multifamily housing, high-rise apartments, or they may be dominated by single-family homes. So we want to look at ways that we can expand those housing options. Also, housing affordability is also one of those pillars that we'd like to address. And as I mentioned, housing costs are rising, not just for a few, but and not just in a few places, but across the country. People are finding it more difficult to be able to afford either their rental homes or the monthly housing costs that they have if they're a homeowner. So what are the ways that we can start to tackle issues of affordability? And then, as I mentioned earlier, our risk of developing a disability can increase or increases as we age. And so what are the ways that we can make our homes safer and more comfortable for us as we age? So just quickly want to go through some examples of the different housing options that we like to showcase as examples or possible solutions. So one is co-housing. That's an intentional community where people get together, they share a certain plot of land, they have individual homes, but they may share certain dining facilities or laundering facilities, and they share common grounds for recreation and parking, but there's co-management of the community. There's also multi-generational housing. We see an increase of multi-generational households. About 64 million people live in a household where there's more than one generation. And so we want, so with multi-generational housing, there are ways to support, these are units that support grand families. So that could be grandparents taking care of their grandchildren if the parents are not able to. We also have something called home sharing, which you might have someone, either an older person or another homeowner that has that may be an empty nester or has always lived alone, but they have space to share their home with someone, and that can be in exchange for rent, but that also can be in exchange for help around the house or maintenance, or also for companionship. And then we have housing with supportive services, which are mainly or can be geared towards those households with lower incomes, but who need support with certain daily tasks. And those supports can be found in-house in the facility or the residence, or they can be found in the community. And depending on the situation, they can get help with the management of the residents to coordinate getting those services. So there are also ways that we can try to find solutions to make housing more affordable. We may be in situations where we've lost a job, and so we can no longer afford our single family home or residence. We may have a medical condition and we can no longer maintain our home and may need to find another place to live. We also may want to just downsize. we're an empty nester, and I want to find a place that really accommodates my lifestyle now. But as I mentioned before, there are people develop very long ties to their community. As I mentioned that, people are telling AARP they want to remain in their homes and communities as they age. They have longstanding ties to community life. They may have raised their children in their community. They've developed social connections, and they just feel comfortable about their neighborhood and really love their neighborhood. And so we want to provide opportunities for people to be able to stay in them if their circumstances change. So we want to find different housing types that can be more affordable and can help people avoid a forced move due to financial situation or something else. So there are different housing types that we look at. So we have accessory dwelling units, which are secondary housing units on a single family home property. And they generally have a second entrance. They can be attached or detached, but it's a private living space with a kitchen and bathroom. And these have a lot of different benefits for people who may want to generate income while they're during retirement. They may be a space for a caregiver, either a care recipient or for a paid or family caregiver. And they can also provide lower cost housing to other people in the community, like nurses, teachers, people who are first responders. So there are a lot of ways to create accessory dwelling units. They're also known as guest homes and in-law suites. But to integrate them into the existing character of a community. There's also missing middle housing. And again, these are different types of houses or homes that have been largely phased out because of zoning regulations. So things like ADUs, which I just mentioned, duplexes, courtyard apartments, we might not see them around. But this provides an opportunity for people who are at different income levels to find the type of housing that really accommodates or fits within their budget. And then there's also senior housing that obviously is geared towards older adults who are in low-income households, but it gives them an opportunity to stay within their community, but be in a place that has services and other supports that are geared toward their specific needs. And finally, wanted to cover housing accessibility. And under housing accessibility, we look at universal design elements. These are elements in a home that provide updates and certain modifications to the home to make them more safe and more comfortable, especially as our mobility changes. And these universal design elements are seamlessly integrated into an existing home. So you would have a 0-step entry, or in the kitchen, you may have drawers instead of reach-in cabinets, or pull-down shelves so someone doesn't have to reach up. You might have different level countertops so someone can sit down while they're either washing the dishes or doing other food preparation. You have a curbless shower or a low threshold shower that you don't have to step over, or you'd have a bench in your shower or a higher toilet. So there are different, another thing is that you could even have some smart device that can help you control some of the house systems. So there are a lot of different ways to incorporate certain design elements or certain tools to help make the home more livable. And I did mention before our design challenge where we renovated a home in Memphis, Tennessee, and on the right, that shows the outside of the home with the 0-step entrance. Those are interiors of the home. And one particular feature in the home here in Tennessee was that we had flexible space, so we had a movable wall. So with that home, if you needed extra space, you had it for an office or a den. But if you needed to bring in someone to care for them, you could close off that room and that could become another bedroom. So I wanted to talk to you now about how villages are integrated into this idea of what it means to create a community that is more livable. So, you know, a village, to some people, village, when you hear the word village, they may not know that village is not a destination, but a model that takes into account this community coming together to create an organization, a membership organization that can support, where neighbors support each other. And again, it's so that they can address the needs that particular immediate community has, so that people don't feel isolated, so that they can interact with their neighbors and friends. But also that it helps, you know, it's an organization that provides these supports that help people stay in their homes and communities for as long as possible. And so that's, you know, definitely what we'd want to see. So I'm going to give you just a quick overview of some data that we have, you know, that just gives us a broad overview of villages. Many of the village members are women. They're very highly educated. They have higher incomes. Many people who are village members live alone, but they are in good health. So this gives you an idea of membership, but also what type of services and what type of activities villages may provide for their members. So I mentioned some of the services. Many people who are village members also contribute back to the villages in some way, to their organization in some way, by many volunteering to provide certain services like transportation or meal delivery or companionship to other members. Many of the villages also offer information referral for other services within the community, which could be useful, especially as I mentioned before, people may be looking for ways to make their homes more safe. So they'd be looking for contractors that could help them with updates to their homes. We've also found that many village members find that villages are really helping them. They are getting together with their neighbors and friends. They're engaging in social activities. They feel connected to folks, and they're getting useful information that they need about their community. And one of the things that also wanted to highlight was, you know, as our demographics change and our country becomes more racially and ethnically diverse, want to note that villages can be more diverse. And as we think about ways that villages can remain sustainable over time, there are considerations that can be made or actions that can be taken to widen the appeal of villages. One of the things that we found in one of our recent surveys is that people are very interested in this idea of a village. Over 50% of folks that responded to our survey said that they would join, they like the idea of a village. And even 50% said that they would join, even though some have membership fees, or that they'd have to pay membership fees. So there are ways that we can think about increasing the membership to include or have them appeal to a wide audience. So there's things like reaching out to younger generations. I know that there's examples of villages that invite younger generations either to volunteer with the village, or to provide volunteer services, or to engage in some the social activities. Some villages also provide a tiered membership level for younger generations who may not need some of the supportive services, so they may pay a different membership fee than others who use a wider variety of services. And then there are ways that we could also, villages could also appeal to communities of color by talking to different community groups, engaging in the places where they may find some of these services, say places of worship or community centers, and see where there's complementary services that they can also be provided. So there's more that needs to be explored in this, but as a solution, villages can work in many different communities, and I think it's raising awareness about the villages that are existing, and also so that people know what they are, know that they're more than just or not a destination, but there's more to it. It can be a way to help people and support people who want to remain in their homes and communities. Okay, so one of the things I just want to leave you with this part of the discussion are ways that communities can take actions, what strategies communities can take to become more livable. One of the things that they can do is community members and decision makers and other community stakeholders is to take a holistic view of housing and livable communities, and see how transportation may impact where we live, or access to certain community services that's impacted by where we live, and how we engage and how frequently we engage in community. Create a toolbox of solutions to address issues of housing. There is no one solution that will work, no one solution that will work for every neighborhood or community or every group who lives in that community. We want to engage a range of partners. We have our anchor institutions like universities or hospitals. We have our local organizations, our businesses, and government, and our individuals who can all collaborate to find solutions to make our places more livable. We want to make sure that everyone in the community has a voice in the decision-making process of what happens to their community. So we want to make sure we're engaging everyone. And then the information that we have about aging, about community organizations like villages, about information that can help support people who may be struggling with a certain housing issue or another type of issue like transportation, making sure we're sharing what needs the community has, what challenges they may have, and what are some ideas for some solutions. And again, raise awareness about how important it is to consider aging as we take these actions. So I wanted to end with a few of AARP's resources that are available. We have the AARP Livability Index, which is an online tool that measures communities all across the United States. You can type in an address, a zip code, a city, to get your overall livability score. And we score communities across 61 metrics in issues of housing, transportation, neighborhood, civic and social engagement, and other things. And with this information that you gather, it tells a story about your community through data. And it helps you to identify places where your community is thriving, but also some community challenges, and tries to direct you to resources that you could help to start making change in your community. So our goal in this is to provide residents and community members with information about existing community data, and then community data that would help them make changes over time. And it's to get people engaged in what it needs to become more livable. These are the categories I mentioned. This is what our results page, if you type in a location, what it looks like, you get an overall score, it gives you some data about your community. And the Livability Index data, we have a relationship with the National Association of Realtors, and the Livability Index scores are integrated into a something that's called the Realtors Property Resource, which is a resource that realtors could use and download information about a particular neighborhood or a particular property, and they can share that with their clients. And so with the information that they know about the community, with the livability index data that they have, it can help people make decisions between what types of neighborhoods they may be looking for, either for themselves or for someone they're caring for. AARP also has a relationship with Lowe's. We are providing Lowe's with educational resources, both videos and articles. If you go to Lowe's Livable Home, you'll be able to see what type of DIY things people can do to make their home more comfortable and safe as they age. And AARP also has the Home Fit Guide, and this again is a guide that covers modifications that individuals can make room by room, some that are DIY, some that you might need more extensive work to be done. But again, with this is the view of making sure that our homes work for us as we age. And then we have a website, our PPI, the Public Policy Institute website, and resources there. And then we have a home and communities preferences survey. Some of the data points that I shared with you can be found here. And then finally, we have a AARP Livable Communities website and other resources where you can find information about housing, transportation, public parks, and the like. And my final thought is that I wanted to leave you with becoming an everyday innovator in aging. And this is a call to action really for all of us as we go about and try to think through ways that we can create a better quality of life for everyone. We want to make sure we're keeping those who are aging in mind and making sure we're adding to the voices, especially the community voices, when we're looking at ways to further develop our communities. And thank you so much this is my information, my Twitter handle, information about our resources again, and I will pop back on for any questions.
Great, Shannon, that was great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have a ton of questions, well, 8 or 9 questions, and I have a hand raise. So I'm going to do the hand raise first. And Wendy, why don't you go ahead and
Hi, Shannon. This is Wendy Zenker from Arlington Neighborhood Village. Am I truly unmuted?
You are. I
truly
can hear
unmuted.
you, Wendy.
So
I can hear
excited.
you.
You can hear me but not see me, so I can make do all sorts of things. We're a village right here in suburban Washington, Arlington, right across the river from AARP headquarters. I think my perspective is, what a difference the pandemic made. And I never know whether this is a good or bad thing to say, but for us, it was a real silver lining. We've watched our membership grow over the last 2.5 years in ways that we could not have predicted 2.5 years ago. So I'm challenged always by data that's stale and out of date, not looking at where villages are right now. I mean, in our village, we've got 355 members, a third of which are receiving discounted memberships. Their incomes are less than $26,000. Many of them pay no membership fee at all. So we don't see the membership fee as being a barrier. Actually, the membership fee for us becomes a way for many, it's like a friends of. People are donating to the village to keep us going and to help with our sustainability. We are aggressively recruiting and welcoming new members from our senior housing facilities. I'm sure, as you're fully aware, senior housing is great. It gives people a roof over their heads, but the extra services that are available oftentimes to residents are not as much as we would all like them to be. So Arlington Neighborhood Village membership to folks who are living in affordable senior housing is a real lifeline to get them to medical appointments, grocery store, picking up prescriptions, helping with small chores in their homes. So we've just really seen a growth in our services to the community, and that growth will continue. This is a path we're on that's, on a very aggressive, diagonal line going up. We've had great response from our members. We've had great response from funders in our community, supporting our efforts to reach out to more lower income members and to make sure that our village reflects the incredible diversity of our community, large scale in every way. So I just wanted to share that with you and to welcome AARP to come visit with us and to see a different village perhaps, and one that some of your data may have pointed out to you from years ago.
Thank you.
We also have Eddie Rivas. And Eddie, I think you have like a couple questions, so I'm gonna let you just go ahead and ask them.
I'm going to focus on one. Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Hi, Eddie.
The primary one, I'm in Montgomery County, so I'm on the other side of the river. And one of the issues we have is zoning challenges. When we talk about affordable housing, and I also serve on the Montgomery County Commission on Aging, and we're advocating for affordable housing, livable communities. And the pushback we've gotten from one of our councilmen at the county level is simply that, it's zoning issues and any kind of grab bars and things like that. That kind of universal design is too expensive for developers. So I'm wondering, do you have any recommendations for how to address some of those zoning challenges?
Yeah, so I don't know where zoning would govern grab bars. That's more of a building code
Okay.
thing, but there are solutions short of regulating. There is the solution of visitability, and there are different ways that those can be visitability regulations, or the idea or concept of visibility can be integrated into a community. So this is more policy oriented, but visitability is saying that a home should have at least 3 things, like a 0-step entry, wide doorways, and first floor living. So that could be a first floor bedroom or bathroom. And there are some communities that have made that a rule, a regulation. So all new construction must at least have those things. But there are some communities that use that as a guideline. So, you know, it would be good if new development includes these things. And that's kind of the lowest level of accessibility that can be integrated into the home. But there are things, like when we think about legislation, there's things that can happen all at once, or there's things that can happen gradually. And I think more communities are willing to accept gradual changes instead of maybe all at once. And again, there are different ways that communities can tackle some of the things to make housing more accessible. Can they use certain funding to provide a low cost loan for people to make certain modifications in their home? Can they provide a list of contractors or something like that that people can work with? Can they identify organizations that will help people to modify their homes? So there are different ways, you know, if the regulation way isn't one, there are different opportunities to address issues of housing accessibility.
That's great. That's useful. By chance, does ARP's website have any of those legislative resources available for the public to tap into?
Yeah, so there is a publication about expanding universal design and accessibility, or visitability, I should say, on our Public Policy Institute website.
Perfect. Barbara, I'll yield the floor to other folks and won't dominate here.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. One of the first questions that came across was actually a really interesting question. Emily Jones asked, how do you define living alone? This came up recently in within their circles, and they think they were asking about whether someone in a nursing facility or independent and assisted, but what do you consider living alone?
Single family household, someone who is single living alone without anyone else.
Okay. Mary Howe writes, a few of their members, village members, talk about setting up the co-op housing household, you know, either one house or small homes with a central large house for community activities. Do you have any resources? I know you mentioned, you know, that they could check out to go through this process of co-op housing. I do know that Bill Thomas has a property, and it's not a nursing home, but it's a planned community where they all have their own houses and they have a central. Do you know anything about that?
Bill Thompson? No, I
Thomas.
don't.
I think it's called
Thomas?
Minka.
No,
Minka.
I'm sorry.
What's it called?
Minka.
Steve?
Minka.
Oh yeah, I've heard about Minka. I've heard about Minka.
Yeah.
But there's the co-housing, I believe it's association or a network of co-housing that could help someone get started. We have a publication on co-housing, but it's definitely finding people that are on the same page with, you know, what it is that they want, you know, in terms of a community. It's an intentional community. They want to make sure that they are thinking about how the community is going to be managed, the administration, you know, whether or not we're talking about units to be purchased, or, you know, are they rentals, or, you know, how they're going to manage the property. That's the shared facilities and the grounds, where they're going to locate, where they're going to buy. But but yeah, I mean, I think it is, it can be a big investment for folks. So they want to make sure that that's the right path for them. But there are those resources that I mentioned, but we don't take people on a step-by-step of this is how you do co-housing.
Yeah, somebody mentioned in the chat, where did I just say it? Nesterly. So that's another one. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Nesterly is like Silver Nest.
Oh,
Isn't that more shared housing?
Yeah, it's shared
yeah,
housing.
yeah, okay. Another question is, do you find that prefabricated is being explored as a way to build more affordable housing, you know, for seniors?
So I don't say that it's being used more. I haven't seen evidence of it being used more, but I think the technology is out there, and it's getting better, you know, as we think about ways to make housing more affordable. You know, some of the accessory dwelling units that are on the market come prefab, so you don't have to worry about building something from the ground up. But you know, with any type of housing, you have to think about whether your land can support it. What are the zoning regulations? You know, how do you hook up to utilities? You know, how do you go through the permitting process? You need to think about all of those things. But you know, I think as technology advances and we get more more construction or more development of these type of units, they can be helpful towards reducing costs.
Yeah. Christine writes, if a village is interested in developing a housing project, this is a pretty good question. How would you recommend they start? Would they reach out to the interested developer and funding? Do you know, line up, you know?
Well, I don't know, you know, whether the village is considered, you know, one entity, you know, or not, but, or what the idea behind it, but there are nonprofit housing developers out there. And I would think that they could follow a model of a nonprofit housing developer that is trying to identify land to acquire and get the financing that they need. And once they're able to secure financing, there could be various methods of doing that. Then working to find a developer to develop that project.
Okay, good to know. Well, it goes back to everybody really needs to be super local in their advocacy for housing. Yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
And I think that, you know, we also need to think about, because, you know, I do like the idea of, you know, an organization saying, you know, well, how can we help? Can we help, you know, build more opportunities or create more housing? But, you know, short of that, because I think that is one very in-depth way, lending our voice to saying that we want to see different types of housing built, you know, being part of the solution to this, and not being a block or a barrier. When we're thinking about the needs of the housing needs in a community, that's your friends and your neighbors who may need this type of housing. And so, you know, wanting to make sure that we're supporting that, because it could be you know, who may need a different type of house, but you don't want to be forced to move somewhere else.
Well, and also it's about community. I mean, I know
Definitely.
and I
yes.
know that people want to stay, you know, especially, you know, where I lived in Northern Virginia, it was, you know, we still wanted to be in the community, but you couldn't laterally move from a big house. And now after COVID, housing is tight. I mean, there's, you know, everybody's vying for it. What does modify recruitment strategies mean?
Oh, what I was talking about of ways to invite others into a village, into the organization. So I know that there may be word of mouth recruitment of villages? You know, are there other ways to connect to people in the community? You know, are there community listservs? Are there community blogs? Are there other ways to reach out to folks? It's just diversifying those strategies.
Okay, so one of the questions was give examples of how ARP resources have been used to get cities, home builders, homeowners, villages to come together to, you know, reach out to the developers or the development process, you know.
I'm trying to understand.
Well, it says give examples of ARP resources have been used to get cities, home builders, villages to sponsor together, or I don't think sponsor is the right word, to get new affordable housing, you know, units and.
Well, AARP, we're the national organization, and then we also have our state offices who work locally. But this is the way we talk to people. We, you know, connect with people through events and conferences. We provide online resources for ADUs. For example, we developed a model state act and local ordinance to look at the provisions that communities, to outline the provisions that communities could adopt if they want to adopt ADU policy. So, you know, we have our online resources, we connect locally, we engage locally, and we engage nationally.
Okay, so those resources are under the livable community or?
Under livable communities, that's correct.
Okay, that'd be great, because, you know, some of the questions here are, you know, does AARP advocate for a more streamlined development process? So yeah, yes, you have resources that we could go to, or, you know, set examples, correct?
That's correct. I was just typing one resource.
Okay, good. Okay, so a couple more questions and then we'll let you go. Does AARP have relationships with related industry vendors who provide member discounts? I know you mentioned Lowe's, but.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't work in the Lowe's membership space, so I wouldn't want to provide you with
No, but
any errant or wrong information. So Barbara, I put those in the chat, but it looks like it's just going to you. And then so let me try again.
I think it went in the chat.
I fixed it.
Oh, you did. So I see now that.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. Oh no, Shannon, you put it in there. Oh, it went to just the host. Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I
No
reposted
problem.
it.
No
Don't worry. I someday Zoom is going to fix this so that although the alternative can happen is you post something and then everybody sees it and you're like, oh geez, I only wanted Barbara to see that.
So one of the final things I want to say, Barbara, is just that, you know, we love hearing stories about successes. So, you know, Wendy mentioned her success, and I know that there are others. You know, we're open to talk about these things and hear about them, and we can highlight, you know, great successes, because it just bolsters, you know, this one solution, right, of you know, how something like this can work for people. So, you know, we can definitely talk about how to connect with different villages.
Okay, terrific. I know that we're out of time here, but we do appreciate all your help. And I know that you put your email in there for additional questions. Please feel free to reach out to Shannon. And it's an ongoing uphill battle, but I think it's worth the local and state advocacy on our parts, all our villages. So
Thank you all so much. I'm really
thank
glad to
you.
be here.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
We'll be in touch.
That ends day 2 of our conference, and we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning. We have a great lineup, and so get on early. Thank you, Steve, our wizard behind the curtain, and Travis, who's back there too, doing all the hard work. Thanks again. Have a good evening.